Greetings and welcome back to the Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, where today we are talking with Nate, the Bodgering Bigfoot.
Yes.
It might be about baskets.
I might have made him a bit of a basket case.
Yeah, well, that was already the case. So, in this video...
But it wasn't baskets, and now it's baskets.
True. In this video, we are talking about pack baskets. But there's much more to this story than obviously just a pack basket. So, Nate, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history with this art, how you came to it, and a little bit about the baskets in front of us?
Well, sure thing, Adam. I grew up doing this as a living with my family, and we had been making baskets here in the area from the raw material from the logs since the 1700s and probably prior. We've always been and had basket makers, so this knowledge has been passed down ancestrally through my family, father to son, father to daughter, mother to son, until me. And I grew up making them with my dad in the shop there at the house for the foundation at Colonial Williamsburg. So those baskets that, if anyone goes to Colonial Williamsburg or you're seeing the baskets there, they're in part my family's design of baskets, or my family was one of the members that helped preserve that style of baskets for the foundation to carry on as theirs.
Okay. So what materials are we using?
Well, now the materials in front of us here are very, very different. But predominantly, the majority of the materials here are white oak. And the pack baskets are a combination of white oak, willow, maple, and bamboo.
In front of us there's a bunch of different styles of baskets.
Yes.
Would you like to explain a little bit about these and how they relate to the greater tradition of Appalachian oak basketry?
Yes, absolutely. So each style is very, very different, and I have here multiple styles. Like we have this one here, that these two stacked on each other. We went into an antique store and we saw an old basket and we decided to copy it after studying it. And today we're going to be going back and picking it up and seeing how close we got. But that is a Native American style done in the Cherokee fashion, or one of the Montcan fashions, where they don't split a rib and they do a chase weave where it's one course at a time all the way up. The more European baskets that I was taught to do, we used a split rib and a spiral weave, which is known as a continuous weave, and just continues to spiral up the basket. So we have here in Appalachia a lot of different cultures. You have the Scottish, you have the Germans, you have the Moravians, you have the Irish, you have the indigenous that actually got to stay when they were being pushed out because they had married into white families. And they got to stay because of that. That was how I have some of the Native American in me. It's because my great-great-grandmother was able to stay while they were being pushed out because she had married my third great-grandfather.
Is this one related to
Yes.
those in style?
Yes. This is a Cherokee style, and it's my own version of a Cherokee style. It's one that I've been building. I call that one the Forager. You'll notice in a lot of Cherokee baskets and a lot of Native American baskets, in general, the handles are really, really hefty. This one here, it has the belt, it has a shape that comes up and tapers in, and that's to help it in the wood. So if you set it down, it's got a wide, flat base. You can set it down flat on almost any surface, and then as you put your foraging goods in there, the weight builds up here at the bottom, and it helps anchor it down. Rather than a European style of basket, like the pack basket, where it's smaller at the base and it comes out and it goes up. This one doesn't really come in very much, but it still comes in at the top. I did do that. The D styles that I was taught to do just came, the belly of them came up and then it just went straight.
What about some of these others?
Well, some of these others, well, we have a wool basket, and obviously I've got my hat on. We've got a wool basket. This one here is just great. You can put wool in it to spin yarn out of. You can do all kinds of things with it. We have your backpack, and we have Renee's backpack. We have a couple of miniatures, and this here is a pint. So it's meant to be about half the size of a quart, and because of the way that we grew up making baskets in measure. Because in the old days, if you needed to go to market, you needed to trust the measurement of your basket, and it was better to have a basket that had a little bit more than the measurement than it was to have a basket way too small, because then you was cheating somebody of a true measurement. So that one there is roughly a pint. This one here is just a mini that I put together. And we have another one that we did. This one here is a Cherokee wall basket. This is a little comb basket. So back in the days where you would have your shaving station or something, or you would put it up on the wall and you would hang it on the wall, and you could put your combs and you could put matchsticks or something in there, whatever you needed. A great all-around handy device. And then we have the stools. We have chair bottoms that we do.
Yeah, let's show that. Let's show that off a little bit.
So this is a chair that I built from scratch. There's no nails, no glue, no screws. It's all green wood assembled, and we take the logs and we split the logs down, carve them down, dry out the rungs, drill the holes, assemble it, and then we weave the bottom. This is split white oak that we dyed. And for those wondering if they are natural dyes, no, it is not. We do natural dyes. This one here is dyed in the bright, vibrant colors of the dyes you can go out to the stores and get. You can go out to Hobby Lobby, you can go out to Michael's, you can go to Walmart, Food Line, and get the right dyes, the RIT dyes, and you can dye them with that too, if that's what you choose. And it's a cheaper alternative than, well, I hate saying cheaper, because it's really a time-saving alternative than it takes to go out, forage for the materials that I need to do the natural dyes. And because of it being a more time-saving thing, when I make something like this, I can pass time down that I saved and what I would have to charge for it and keep it down for the customers.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's still a beautiful piece.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah, there's some colors you just can't get from natural dyes too, and fluorescent orange is one of them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, they just don't. You can get an orange, but not that orange.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yep. So, what's that one over your shoulder there?
This one over my shoulder is one that we did entirely out of bamboo. This one here is a very, very special basket. It's a very, very ancient basket. And this one here is out of bamboo. It's entirely bamboo with a white oak rim and lashing. So this one here is great for if you're out foraging for big stuff, or you're just moving stuff around, maybe come across a bamboo patch. Older cultures, and cultures like, especially in Asia, they would split the bamboos down and the canes down into these splits, and then they would put the base together, and then they would use these ribs to weave up the basket. And this is a really fun basket to make, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it's just it's a lightweight.
So, in this specific video, we made these pack baskets. This is the one that Nate made for the primary demonstration, and most of what you'll see is going to be Nate's weaving on this basket. But we made some too. So this is Renee's pack basket.
And a fine job she did.
And this is the one that I made. And we recorded a little bit of our work on these, but mostly you're going to be watching the master make this piece. So, what is the structure of it? What are the parts called? What goes into it?
Well, I tend to think of a basket much like a person. So you need a skeleton. Your body needs a skeleton, and the skeletal structure of a basket is its ribs, and that needs to be the strongest parts of the basket. So we make those a little bit beefier. We take our wood, we split it down to the size that we need, and in this case, these ribs are, 48 inches or so? It was almost 4 foot long, if not slightly over 4 foot, because we wanted a tall backpack, or a larger version of a backpack. And you can see that even though they're same materials done similarly, we all did this together, the baskets come out completely different. There is no copycat baskets. So you weave the base together with the ribs, and then we have these things that go horizontally across. Those are called the weavers, or in the old vernacular, they're the splits. S-P-L-I-T-S, split. And then we have the top. So we get to the top of the basket after we've woven all of this up with our selective materials, and then we have to turn all that down, but we have to wait for it to dry. You experience that making one basket. It's better to make a lot of baskets at once and then let them dry out than it is to make one time, because there's only so much we can do on one basket at one time. And then after it dries out, we do a turn down, and then we go to our rim. We make our rim, out of a scrappier piece of wood that we would have had to throw away. So like the very heart of the wood, it's still flexible and strong, and it's very, very strong to do what we need it to do. So it provides the best material for a rim, but not the best material for anything else. And then we take the finest of the material and use it for our lashing splits, and then we use another piece of material for the handle. And then we put it all together.
Awesome. So before we dive into starting to actually make this basket, how can people contact you if they would like to reach out to you?
Well, you go to the woods, you take a branch, you take a nice section of a log, and you start knocking on the trees and hope I'm in the vicinity to knock back.
Okay. Would a bull roarer help?
No, I'm not Australian.
Okay. Well, no, those are worldwide.
Well, you can reach out to us through our Facebook page, the Bodgering Bigfoot. My company's name is the Bodgering Bigfoot, and we have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have YouTube, where we just got on We Am app, and that's been rather exciting. And you'll find us on Clapper.
Okay. And I'll make sure that all of that's linked in the description box of this video if you want to reach out to Nate. So
but the Facebook and the Instagram and YouTube and TikTok seem to be the larger ones at the moment.
yes, they're the better ways.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's get started making some materials to construct these baskets.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, Nate, so let's talk about materials before we get into the basket itself. So the classic pack basket material that everybody likes to think about is what?
Well, now that depends upon your region. That depends where you're at. Here in Virginia, where we're at, it's white oak.
Okay.
And that's the traditional wood used among a lot of the peoples here because it's readily available. It's a very common species here, and it likes to fight for space with other trees, and it often loses and it starts to die off. So this tree here is a tree that was dying and thinning itself out, which makes for excellent basket material because we can then take it. It grows really nice and tall and straight. It reaches for the sky, and we can take that thing. It produces long, sinuous fibers, and we can pull it apart by the growth ring and make our basket materials very, very simply.
Okay. When you're picking out a white oak, what are you looking for in the forest?
What I'm looking for in the forest, and this is where I wish we had been in the forest today, is I'm looking for nice, soft, flaky bark.
Okay.
You see how flaky that is? How I'm just rubbing? I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm looking for a nice, tall, straight tree, and I'm looking for trees that reach straight up for the sky.
Okay.
And then the rest of it is basically what nature tells me. So when I walk out into the woods and I'll look, this forest here that this came out of kind of scared me a little bit. But I'll see these trees. I'll see all the basket trees light up. So, and then I'll go and I'll look at them, and sure enough, they'll work.
Nice. So white oak is the classic, most common. What other trees have you used successfully for baskets? And what trees have you used that it's just like, nope, not doing this again?
Okay, well, here we have locally grown willow.
Okay.
So this is foraged willow grown off the river, just literally less than a mile down the road. And the state of Virginia allows people to go, and you can forage for it. It's almost considered to be a weed, but now because of the conservation efforts of the South Fork River, which is just right here, the state has been working on conserving the river and taking all the toxins out of it left from one of the factories down here. Well, willow is great for that because it helps pull those toxins out. So for me as a basket maker, I'm working with the state conserving the river by going and harvesting, keeping the willow plants healthy, because this willow needs to be cut back to be healthy. So it has to be harvested year after year after year. And now I just go up to these plants and I greet them like an old friend.
Yeah.
So they're great for that. They're flexible, and you don't hurt them by cutting them. You only help the plant. And then the superpower of the willow is that you can take those things and you can propagate it. You can just cut a bit off, jab it into the ground about 8 inches or so, and boom, you got more sprouts and you got more basket materials.
Do you see a difference in quality of material on willows that have been harvested regularly versus ones that have been ignored for a while?
Yes. In fact, we actually have a bunch in here. If you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, let's pull it out.
So, willows that grow in the wild.
I'll hold it up for you.
So this here Where's a really bushy one? They get bushy. So this here's a wild gourd one, and this here's mild, but it'll have all these little sprouts growing all over it.
A little close to the camera.
Ah, here you go. So it'll have all these little sprouts growing all over it, all these little suckers, and you'll have vines, stuff growing, and
Like this one?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And that's wild, and this here is right out of the flower bed. So the city allows me. I talked, when you do this, you always have to talk to the people in charge before you go and do this. Check your laws, make sure you can do it. I called the city's park management, and I got the biologist there who took care of the plants, and I got permission from them. So I'm allowed with a lot of rules to harvest this stuff, but you can see the difference. Mm-hmm. Every one of these shoots is really nice and straight.
And here's the wild one.
So it's not as bushy. So these love to grow up nice and straight. And after you harvest them, after you harvest these wild plants, they'll come back. Here you go. So here's one from one of the plants that I harvested in the wild, that I harvested from last year. So it'll put out these shoots, and these shoots here are perfect for basket making.
Nice. There's some in here that look a little bit different. What's this?
That is your black willow. This is your willow that really grows very, very wild, and it's a very common willow. And the cool thing about this willow that I love is that this willow here, you'll see the bark, how the bark is, and then you'll see these. What I love about this willow is how easily this willow almost wants to be made into baskets, and I break them all off. So when you take one of these guys and you're harvesting it, you have these that grow up. These things just break right off, not a problem. Like, you just barely brush up against it and it breaks right off. So you don't have to take the whole part of the plant, you can just take these.
Okay, so just brush them off and take them for making smaller baskets.
Yep, and then it resprouts it right back again.
So that's black willow, and then this is the red osier.
Yes.
Okay.
This here is, it could also be, because this here is slightly different, and this was planted by the city, this here could be the white dogwood. And this stuff over here, the wild stuff, is definitely 100% the red osier.
The red osier. Okay, cool. So that's those. We've talked about the white oak. We've talked about, what's this?
That's maple.
Okay.
So this here is another wood. You'll find people in other cultures using it. I came about it by learning how to work quite by mistake when I was about 15 or so.
Okay.
I was curious if you could take a maple tree and make a basket out of it, and the first maple tree I cut. Well,
Will
sure
it
enough.
basket?
Yes, yes, yes. And when you're living your life and you're moving from here and there, you don't know what life is going to throw at you. The more materials you know how to work and manufacture a basket out of, the more places you have open for you. Like willow, I didn't start to learn how to use willow until I got moved over here, and I didn't have the access to the white oak that I did have. And now that I've got the access to the white oak, I've got all the access to the willow, and I know how to work the willow. So my wheelhouse of materials has expanded. And I can take all these materials that we have here, and you can combine them all to make one basket, and you can use the strength of those materials and not have the weaknesses.
Nice. So what are some of these other things? What's this material?
That's black ash.
Okay.
This is my last stash of black ash that I had from a basket making friend who we pounded out the logs and until they separated. This here is a very common basket material up north. In fact, the farther north you go in basketry, you'll go from regions where you have the white oak is the most common, and then by the time you hit Pennsylvania, especially where you're at in Pennsylvania, it turns to the black ash, and black ash becomes a species of choice among them further north, but that's because that's the most common there.
And sadly, all the ash trees are dying out now, so that's...
Yes.
We need to think about some of these other things, too.
It might not look pretty. It might look rough and ragged, but I got some treasure right here.
Oh, yeah, that is absolutely a treasure, for sure, for sure. And what are we looking at here?
Oh, well, this here is a piece of bamboo. And this here is a species known as tiger bamboo in the common tongue. What it is in Latin, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just a basket maker. I'm not very well educated on a lot of genuses in Latin, but I do know it will basket.
It will basket.
It will
Nice.
basket, and I also have some hachiku across the fence here that we can put into baskets.
Very nice, very nice. So the processing of this materials. So this is pretty much done, right?
That's pretty
we
much
just
done.
weave with it.
You can just weave with it.
So just in words conceptually, what are the steps in taking the oak and making it basket?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So what we'll do is we'll take this thing, we'll look at it, we'll look at the grain, and when we cut it down, we're fairly educated enough to know that it's going to make a basket. But the truth about making baskets from natural materials is you never know what it's going to do until you start working the material. Until then, it's just an educated guess. So what we'll do is we'll look at how this is starting to want to crack. So I've got a massive crack right here. So that's telling me that there's internal stresses in the tree that is opening up as it's slowly drying. So that's where I'm going to put the wedge. I'm going to put the wedge in that crack because that's where it's going to be the easiest. That's where the natural crack is. I'm going to follow that all the way down, and then we'll have a half a tree. And I'm going to take that half and I'm going to split it into a quarter, much like what we do for rail fences. And I'm going to take that quarter and split it to an eighth. And then we start working our materials down from there. And then right here, we have an eighth.
Okay.
That's what it'll look like. And then what I'll do is I will take the heartwood section off of that, which is this section right here. And then
Is this good or is that waste?
this is good.
This is good.
This is still good. But now this material is more B grade or C grade material.
Gotcha.
A lot of my basket making materials I kind of line up in A grade, B grade, C grade. A grade being the best, B grade being okay, I can still use this, but it's not the best. So I might make a heavier work basket, or like we'll put it into a structural part of the pack basket where it's going to provide the most strength and durability.
Okay.
And then we have the C grade material. And sometimes the C grade material can be A quality material. You don't know till you work it. And because I was making chair splits with this guy, I just put it off to the side until I could work it later. But this is what we make handles and rims out of.
Gotcha.
So this, you look at an old basket, you'll see it's made out of the heartwood, and the handles and rims always came out of a piece of wood like that, because when you got your piece that has the A and the B grade, and that's the bark piece, you'll have this where that will split off. So we'll show it to the camera. Bam, we split it off, and now we have this bit of prime material to work. And the next step will be to, depending upon what we want to make out of it, so say we want to make splits. So we'll split it tangentially like this and pull it apart. And we'll pull it apart against the growth ring, so we're pulling it apart like the pages of a book. And we'll split it down this way to get our width of materials. And then we come back after we got it all sized down correctly, and then we split it with the grain and get our weavers.
So what makes the wood closer to the bark superior for weaving than the core?
Well, it's just how the tree grows. So the core, the very heartwood of the tree, is essentially dead wood. It's not a living material. In fact, the only living material about this is that first growth ring right there, actual growing wood. The rest of this is just there for structural support. The heartwood can work just as well as the outside of the tree. It depends upon the tree. You never know till you start to work it. But generally the heartwood, the closer it gets back to where it first started to grow, the more coarser that tree is, because that tree, like everything else, is fighting to survive, and it's fighting for its place in the forest. So as it grows out, you'll see it has good years, and you'll see it has a lot of bad years. Those good years is when it just, and it shows its muscles, and it's like,
Hulks out, I'm a big tree,
And then the other years is when it was sick or something happened, and it was like, so those are all things, whatever this tree has experienced throughout its life is going to be reflected in the workability of the wood. And it can be, I've worked trees where the outside of it you just throw away because it'll break, it'll snap, it's brashy. But yet the heartwood of it is the best part of the tree.
Just had better years.
Just had better years.
Gotcha.
Location, location, location.
So you can't really tell by looking. You just have to get into your tree and play with it.
Yep. Now you can use educated guesses. Like right here, you'll see that there's an axe mark here, and you'll see on this guy, there's an axe mark. These are out of two different trees.
Gotcha.
So the axe marks, what I'll do is I'll take an axe and I'll chop into the tree a little bit, and then I'll pull it apart, and then that shows me the fibers. So that's my test. Like I said, educated guesses. So I'm looking at the fibers, I'm pulling, and I actually pulled this apart a little bit. So I just pulled it apart with the axe right here, got my finger in here, and pulled, and when I felt it pull, when I felt the wood start to work in my hand just a little bit coming off the tree, it's like, okay, this is going to be a really nice tree to work with.
And you would work the maple the same way, or is there anything different?
Honestly, I just cut it down and hope it works.
Okay. Nice.
Where we're at, but you do a very similar process with it. You can chop into it, you can pull it apart by the growth rings. It's going to be a little bit different than the white oak because it's not as porous as the white oak. So what I end up doing is I work this very carefully, and I cut a small section of it. So I took the stump wood, I cut a small section off the stump, and then I made ribs out of it to see about the workability with that. So essentially I'm doing the same thing as I'd be doing here, but I'm working it a lot more carefully. Maple has to be a little bit more careful.
Nice. What other woods have you used successfully?
Let's see.
Just for people that are living in different areas and might be thinking, oh, I don't have red maple or white oak handy, what could I go after? So what woods have you used? And if you were in a new area, how would you start exploring?
Well, now it depends upon the area where I'm at. And exploring is also learning the area and learning what it has to offer is just getting out there and doing your research. It's looking at the trees, it's wondering, it's being curious, and it's testing, research. Willow grows all over the Americas. You can find willow just about anywhere. So, and each style of basket, each material a basket produces, if you're going to use predominantly just that material, it produces a unique basket in and of itself with each material. But I love the fact that where we're at here in Virginia, I've got all the access to a lot of these basket materials that I can mix it all together. That's the fun part. But being in a new area, you want to do your research, you want to test, and then you want to get out and do it. I've used hickory. I've used hickory wood. But now hickory wood that I've used, it has to be really, really tight grained. But I've used it. It works, and it works okay. And a lot of the other woods out there, like I mentioned to you off camera, that I had used sassafras. But now sassafras is really, really brittle, and I had a lot more failures than I did successes. And you would almost have to steam bend that to really get that to make a strong basket. These woods here, the white oak. The white oak is very, very common all the way from the beginning of PA down through the south, down into Georgia, and all the way out and through the Ozarks in Alabama. So if I find myself within the lower south, I'm going to still be using the white oak. I'm going to still be looking for the white oak. And the farther west we go, I don't know if you've noticed this with the natives, but the farther west we go, the more the pottery the natives do. So you lose your materials. You still have the willow. You can make a twig basket using the willow. So that material is still going to be there, but the farther west you go, and that's another point of this, is that if you're in a new area, you also want to look at what the indigenous people did before you, because you are not the first person to live in that area to want to make a basket from it. So it's always good to check what the locals did. Go to your local antique store, look around, because out west they used the grasses and they used a coiling technique with spruce root, and they would coil these baskets. Or they would take these willow trees, they would strip the bark off of it, and they would size it down, and they would do a coil like that to get the basket that they needed.
Very nice.
Yes.
So, last question before we start digging into it. Process-wise, how is bamboo similar and different to the trees?
Well, bamboo is very, very similar to the trees, because what we'll do is we'll split this thing in half. And then after we split it in half, we'll keep splitting it down to get our width of materials, much like we do with the white oak. The most glaring difference about this tree versus the rest of the others is that it's hollow. And because it's hollow, you don't have heartwood. You don't have these triangular pieces. But what makes it very different are the nodes. We have these nodes to contend with. And those nodes, when the tree grows, you can get the fibers of the tree, because the fibers of the tree growing through here are growing up. And because at each node there's a diaphragm, and you can actually see it when you split it. But the node opens up a little bit, the fibers in there will open up a little bit, and then the fingers the tenons, as you were, from the diaphragm, which gives the plant the structural support to be able to grow, comes in through there like that. And then it kind of bends over and clenches. You can actually see points in it if you're careful where it clenches. So that point where it's all interlocking, where we can see the fingers in there, gets chucked out. Because it makes it very, very hard to work, and you're essentially working through a knot.
Gotcha. So when we're looking at the bamboo, we're looking at this as the usable section?
Well, the whole pole here is usable.
Okay.
If you're going to make a small basket and you don't want the nodes or deal with the nodes, absolutely. Go for it.
Gotcha. So, but when you say chuck out the nodes, can you make a whole strip and work with the nodes so that it becomes bendable? Okay.
Yes. So what we'll end up doing is this section right here will only use about that much of the pole, of actual bamboo. So this little bit here, we're only after about the first less than 1/8 of an inch. This here is about 1/4 of an inch thick. We're about the first 1/8 of an inch or so, and then beyond that, on the inside of it, because you'll see that the outside is really nice, it stays really nice and fresh, but we go on the inside and you'll see that the inside has kind of gotten a little bit moldy from being outside, so we don't want that. If that starts to mold, that's showing that the material itself is going to deteriorate much faster than the outside of the material, and bamboo is one of those materials that I love to use because of the outside of it, not necessarily the inside. And also because of what we do out here and how we make our baskets, we want to work with nature. And bamboo is one of those things that not like the white oak or the maple or all the other materials. Bamboo is a little bit different in that you need to harvest it regularly to keep the forest in check. You need to always be taking stuff out of it. You don't come in there with a bulldozer and cut the whole forest down and pull the whole forest up. What you do is you take and you make stuff out of it routinely. You utilize it in your daily life. And by utilizing it, you help keep the forest in check. So I can be in a basket maker's mindset for the white oak. Every piece of that is precious. I don't like throwing anything of that away because it's so hard to get. You have to go out into the forest. You have to walk around and hike, and you literally have to hunt that tree down. It's not a here it is, boom. Here's the whole forest up, cut the first one I see. Yeah. No, it's never like that. It's grab your lunch, get ready for a hike, grab your axe, get it nice and sharp, and be ready for a walk. And be ready for a lot of work. So every bit of that is very, very precious. This, you can just walk into the forest, tap it, that nice hardness, that nice clacking sound that's making off my wedding ring, that's what you want to hear, and then that'll possibly make you a good basket. This here is more, you can walk out into the forest and make a basket with bamboo like this a lot easier than you would be able to go out into the forest and make a basket out of white oak.
Very nice.
Yes.
All right. So, what we're looking at here, Adam, is we're looking at the top end. Now, with basket materials, I showed you the crack at the bottom end of the log, but when you split stuff when you split wood down for basket materials, you always start at the top, because that's where the tree will be at its smallest, and the top gives you the truest sense of the growth rings and how it's going to work. So I never really pay attention at the bottom because the tree flares out at the bottom. You'll see how it's wider. You'll see if you look at a tree, it's wider at the base than it is at the top. So we always start at the top because that's going to give us our true. I'm going to take a look at this, and we have a crack here. We have a crack here, here, and we have a long crack right here. I'm not going to worry about the short cracks, but I am going to look at the cracks running through here, and seeing that these two cracks right here split that tree really nice in half. And this guy comes up, and then it kind of veers off. So I'm going to go ahead and separate that using the straighter cracks.
That makes sense.
And then sometimes when I'm not even bothered, I'll just take the wedge and put the wedge in there, and it'll be what it'll be.
Okay, let me get out of your way.
So, first step, that thing likes to rock and roll, so we'll take that, put the wedge exactly where we want it. Now, if you have a froe, you can do this with a froe. You can use an axe. But I'm just going to take the wedge, put it where I want it. Tap, tap,
Tap, tap.
That white oak split's so nice.
Oh, this is gorgeous wood. And y'all are lucky because this is the top part of that short piece I showed you.
Uh-huh.
And that wood was just absolutely gorgeous.
Nice.
Gorgeous wood. So,
So you just keep walking them back?
yep. Yep. And then every now and then, you'll get a spot like what we just got into. You'll see down in there, there's a whole bunch of fibers.
Where the whiskers are crossing.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'll come down here. But now, those whiskers being like that is a very good sign.
Okay.
So, kind of want that.
Not brash.
Not brash. And at this point, what we'll do is we're going to take and flip this over.
Okay. Split
So-
from the other side?
Yep. But you'll see where these fibers are at.
Uh-huh.
So that's the fibers that are all interlocking.
Is that in view well done?
So we'll take this wedge, and you'll see that fiber goes all the way down like that. It's all trying to interlock. That's a really good indication of basket wood.
Good.
So that's a very good sign there. Take the axe, portion of them all. We'll go down. And you see how that wants to
I do.
that?
It's pulling rather than snapping.
Yes. Yes. Come on.
Okay. So that's the first split.
That's the first split.
Okay. And then you'll do that. Yeah, let's get it separated. Here, let me.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So one thing I didn't grab was my axe. So it's always good. There you go.
Okay.
We'll sever that out with the axe.
Okay.
One bar battery.
All right, so we're going to swap off with the fro. Fro is really great for precision work. You put it right where you want it.
And then will you split that all the way down with the fro, or will you use some wedges in there
Well,
as you can continue?
if you can pop it like that, go for it.
Nice.
Fur makes a lot easier to work. But then we hit that part where it's nice and interlocking again.
Uh-huh.
So, as much as I like to work, there's a point of, do I need to work that hard at it?
And we go back to the wedge.
Yep. So we'll finish it off with the wedge. It would have been really nice if it kept working with the fro. Where do you? Hey.
And she's done.
Yep. There you go.
Very nice. So, once more, or do we
Yep.
start splitting the core out now?
Once more, it's still way too broad.
Yeah.
So if we split the core, so right here's the core.
Uh-huh.
So if we split that off, we have way too much material here to actually get a good pull, and get a good controlled lever pull. So up here it needs to be smaller.
Nice. Okay. Is that the one you want?
Yeah. Take this, line it up. Bam. Sometimes you just have to get a good lever spot.
Uh-huh.
Bam.
Bam. Okay. And then the next step,
Is to now remove.
now we take the core out.
Now we take the core.
Okay.
So there's our line. Watch
This is
your
called
fingers.
trust.
Very much so. And then now, because this piece here, and this is going to be crucial for both you and Renee as you work this,
Uh-huh.
to remember, when it gets thick or it gets thin, pull on the thick side. But to work with oak, you need leverage. So
Yeah.
this here is thinner than here. It's got a lot less material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brace it. And I'm going to put all the pressure I can on this piece.
Okay. What happens if you pull on the thin piece?
It keeps getting thinner.
It keeps getting thinner. Yeah.
And there is the very center of that out.
Okay.
It's got a bunch of knots in it. So it's probably not going to make an awful lot more other than just rims or a handle.
Gotcha.
And this here will make ribs.
Very nice.
Yes.
Okay. So we keep working it down just like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then we can set that off to the side and sort that out however we want to and work it down later.
Sounds good.
Yes.
So these are the ribs of the basket,
Yes.
right?
Yes. These are the ribs. This is the next step.
Okay.
This is
And-
actually the first step in making a basket.
And they go together like that, sort of,
Yep.
kind of, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, we'll interlock them in. But the first step is to actually get from where we were at with the splitting process, because the very first step is in procuring your wood. You have to procure the wood that you're going to use, and then after that you have to start making the materials. And the first materials you're going to need to make is going to be the skeleton of your basket, which are the ribs.
Okay.
So we've taken the pieces of wood that we've split down, we've made some of the ribs, and we're going to take this guy, and we're going to put him into more ribs. I'm going to take this with the fro, and I'm going to split it in half. Everything in basketry is going to be in halves. So at this point on, we're not worrying about thirds or anything else. We're just splitting everything in half.
Okay. And why in half? Why not in thirds? Why not just go right for the thin piece right away?
Because then it will pull off. Then you don't have an even thickness on one side to pull off of. So if you have one side way too thin, you're going to have to pull really, really hard on the thick side to make it line up and work, and you're just creating a lot more hassle for yourself.
Yeah.
It's easier to go ahead and take the time, split everything in half like this for the ribs.
Because this makes a bad rib, right?
Yes, yes. That's the end result of what we're talking about. Which he so found out. So, now we're going to take and pull this apart. So, like I was saying, one side is thick, this side is thick, this side is thin. I'm going to pull on the thick side, just like that. I'm going to even it out. And now, I'm going to let it run. And now, I've got a nice even piece. And this guy here kind of has a runoff where the grain twisted on him. So he's the same thickness all the way down, but the grain twisted. So we're going to set him aside for smaller ribs. We're going to shave the bark off. Just like so. And to help with things, like all this on the side or whatnot, you can take it and you can shave right on down. So now we're making a billet. Now we're taking that raw piece of wood and we're starting to make something dimensional with it.
Kind of like cutting a cant in a sawmill.
Yes, yes, yes. And the reason for doing this is that it gets rid of any fibers like this on the side. As you're pulling it apart, it can catch and help you have a runoff, and for the wood to not do what you didn't want it to do.
How many ribs do you usually get out of each of these 8?
Well, it depends. It depends upon the wood that you got, depends how good the quality is, but so far, out of these 8, we've gotten, my pile, I've worked down about 3 or 4 eighths, and I've probably got 50, 45, 50 ribs.
Okay.
40, 50, something around there. So we've got enough for 6, maybe 7 backpacks.
Okay.
Something like that.
I worked down 2 or 3 eighths, and I did not get 50 ribs. There is a learning curve.
There it is.
And that is okay.
And there's one at the right thickness, so we're just going to take the knife. We're just going to go over it. Clean stuff off. It goes into the pile. And then
Very nice.
this guy here, he's got a thin spot here around that knot. He's thin. So you got a little bit of thickness right there. So we're just going to take it. We're just going to work that down. Throw that off to the side. Another rib. And as you've noticed, the quality of the wood changes from one side of the tree to the next. Each piece is a little different.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not been the
for sure.
same. So you can't just say how many do I get. Well, you can, but it's not applicable to each and every piece.
Yeah.
It's all going to vary.
But splitting does give us very good utilization
Yes.
of the wood.
Yes.
And then beyond just shaving them, is there a preparatory step? Are these ready to go as is?
Yes.
Do they need dried? Do they need sanded? Do
You
they?
can take. Now we've got it worked down. That you don't need sand. You don't need to sand it. It would be helpful to let it dry. And now that we've been in here and we've worked this stuff down, this is pretty much it. It's ready. You can weave the basket right now if we want to.
Okay.
But the problem of it is we would fold it up, and it does that.
Doesn't stay.
It doesn't stay. So if we allow the material to dry a little bit, we can actually put it together, and we'll fold it up. And when I let go of it, it won't fall back down, but it'll stay up. Plus, the wood will have already shrunk what it's going to shrink.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that we can put a really tight bottom together with dry material, and it's going to stay tight. Everything's about being tight.
Yeah. So how long will these need to dry? Overnight?
Yeah, I'd say overnight.
Okay.
I say the next step is to the weavers.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, weavers. These are our splits, and they're going to be longer. Oops, the daisy. See what I was telling you? Come down lower.
So this is already an eighth of a log.
Yes.
Okay. And all of that splitting is the same for these as the weavers and splints as the
Yes.
the ribs.
We're hoping to, because now this is a new tree. So we're hoping that this tree is going to work as well as the last one. And this tree here should, but it has a major twist in it.
Okay.
So
Is there a particular approach to working with the twist, or just being careful?
being careful, and you'll see that there's more heartwood on this side than this side, even though that up here I split it off, and then as it's going it's twisting, so it's just trying to stay in the fibers.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So with these pack baskets we're going to use a wider split, so
Okay.
we're only going to split this in half.
Okay.
And that'll give us a 1/2 inch or a 5/8 inch wide split. And when you're splitting them down to size like this, you need to be extra careful because it can pull off to one side very, very fast. And you end up with a piece kind of like this, where it's wide and then it just kind of tapers in.
Okay.
So this one will make a smaller round of splits. And it's going to happen. It happens. This is a new tree. So we worked all day yesterday on those ribs from really good wood. And with this being a new tree, it doesn't help that it's also slightly frozen. So you can actually feel, you can actually feel how cold, and you can hear the ice in the bark. Remember how yesterday we were going through the bark and it was just slipping off rather nice?
Yep, now it's adhered.
Now it's adhered. Now it's completely frozen. So, and that makes it extra jumpy. That makes for situations like what we just had with that. So we have to be extra, extra careful.
Okay. Now, how are you using the knife for this draw cut?
Well, I'm just pulling this piece of wood, so I'm using the knife like a plane. So I've got my knife, I've got it anchored. So it's not the knife that's moving, my hand is anchored. And I've got it adjusted so that it'll take a cut. And then I use my hand to draw the wood through the knife. The worst thing you want to do is just take your knife and do that, because then you're working your elbows really, really hard, and then you don't know if you're going to catch a grain, dig down into it, and then ruin
Slide
that
off
piece
at
of
an
wood.
angle.
Yeah.
You might have witnessed that happen yesterday.
I might have. I wasn't going to bring it up. So we got a point on it, and the point's going to always be at the top. So that signifies where the top of the tree is. So that's a small part of the tree.
Okay.
So anytime you're seeing an old basket in an antique store and you see a split with a point on it, that was the top of the tree. We always work from top to the bottom.
Gotcha. And is that just about, are you carving that just to label it, or are you carving that to make it easier to get the knife in for the splint?
Both.
Both.
Both. It does a lot of purposes, and this is going to be a good tree, I can tell you from the fibers, from cutting in through the fibers. Now, because this whole tree was tapered, so as we get down into the heartwood, the splits from the heartwood are going to be just a little bit smaller than the sapwood, because it was coming down and it was tapered, and then we had this really wide spot that we're trying to even out. And then we've got where it pulled the piece out for the first initial split, jumped through a bunch of growth rings. So this is way thicker than this. So we're going to come up here, and you can actually see right around this knot, this little bit of fiber that actually start to pull off. So, and then you'll see right here more fibers, all these little loose fibers right here. That's from the run out. That's from the wood literally jumping through rings, or pulling out of rings to make it thicker here, and it just kept going on, which is a byproduct of the wood being frozen.
Gotcha. And the swell in the butt end of the log, does that contribute to that as well?
Yes, very much so. And it contributes to it, like right here. You'll see where we pulled it off right here. There's a little bit of the heartwood right here, and then there's the sapwood right here. So that's all in the swell part of the log.
Okay.
So now that we're making packs, this is a good time to stop and think about exactly what you want to, how thick you want your materials to be. And you need to pay attention to your splits. So your splits need to be thinner than your ribs,
Okay.
or as thick. All right. So here's the first one, and if this had been, now mind you, this is the first time we've worked this tree, this part of the wood, this particular tree, and each tree is like a person. It's all different. It's got a different spirit, it's got a different voice. So it's going to work, each tree works differently. So now what I've done is I've transferred my knife into a scraper.
Yep.
So instead of trying to carve with it, because the wood's frozen, the knife is relatively sharp, but with the wood being frozen, I don't want any surprises, and the knife can catch and shear right through there, or it just makes it harder. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to scrape this down, and this here will get put into a pile designated for thicker splits. It's almost as thick as the ribs we were making.
Okay. So where in the weave would you want thicker versus thinner splints?
Well, as the basket goes up, you want your material to start thin and then build up to thick.
Okay. So
Yep.
thinner at the bottom.
Thinner at the bottom. In fact, if you look at old baskets, your thinnest split is going to be at the bottom. But now if you put a handle, you have to be careful, because if you put a handle and that handle loops over that thin split, like you're going to anchor it into the basket. So you put it down into the basket, you split the end of the handle, and you're going to fold the piece back, and you're going to fold the bottom piece back into the frame of the basket. That's called a dog ear. I grew up learning that was called dog earing a handle. That's what we called it. Well, when you put weight in that basket, heavy weight, that thin split, if it's just that one thin split, that handle piece coming back up, that's little thin splits taking all the weight of that. So you need to make sure that your split isn't too thin. It's thick enough to take weight, because it's an anchor point on the basket. So you need it to be strong enough to take the weight, but thin enough to weave. So we're just going to set this guy over here,
Okay.
and then we're going to go back. Let the dogs bark in the background. Get rid of that.
People are used to hearing chickens in the background.
On our channel, yeah.
It's fine.
Well, and the Blue Jays are telling the dogs off, so.
I know. Alright, you don't want to work like that, that's fine. And again,
Frozen wood.
I think that's a good part of the problem, but it also could be the tree. It could be the heartwood just being stubborn, and that happens. That's the thing about working with a living material. It's all different, and you have to take your time and learn it. No two trees are ever the same. Like, you get used to the tree, you start off with a really good tree for the ribs. And now, we move to a new tree that we don't know how good it works. It's got a major swell at the bottom. But, and it's frozen, which contributes to the workability of it. Typically, if you're going to work like this, you would prep the pieces, and you would take them inside, put them beside a stove, and let them thaw. But there is another weaver, and we're just going to do this until we have enough ribs for the basket, enough splits for the baskets.
About how many is that going to be for a pack basket?
I'd estimate between 15 to 20 splits
For each. Okay.
for each. And the number of splits could depend greatly on the style of basket you're after. But generally, this is the hardest part of making the basket. The easiest part is getting the hardest part's really finding the wood. And then after you find the wood, making your ribs is one of the easier parts. And then you get into your weaving material and it gets difficult. Because now you want your weavers to be as long as they can be. Oh yeah. Alright, so that was the heartwood. Just being weird. Tree could be mad that it took us so long to find it. And we'll just pull this down very carefully. And this is one thing that as we travel and we do our demonstrations, what I'll do is I'll build up materials all throughout the year, because it takes so many weavers to make a basket. And if you know the sizes that you're going to be using, you just, as you get the wood, you make your basket materials fresh, and then you can store them. And as you need to make baskets, you just pull them out, put your baskets together, and weave it.
Do you have to re-soak them if it's been stored a long time?
That depends on the quality of the wood. There's times that I'll put them in water just to rehydrate them, but a lot of the times, no. Depends on how big of a hurry I am. And it doesn't hurt the basket to weave them dry. What happens when you weave them dry is that sometimes they're a little slippery. It's the best way to describe it.
Okay.
So right now we can put one of these and overlap this in the frame, and the compression from the ribs are going to pinch these two together. And because there's moisture between these, it'll pinch it and it'll be like glue almost. You'll feel it when we get to that point.
Just enough to stick it together.
Yep. Yep. And when they're dry, that moisture isn't there to help adhere it, so you have to be careful. You'll have splits that pop up out of place. You might put a little bit too much tension on the weaver and it can pull out. Your compression strength isn't as great, but it doesn't hurt the overall strength of the basket.
Okay. So you're splitting that from the bottom up instead of the top down this time. Is there a reason to make that decision?
Yes, because this here gets thinner as it's going up, and I started here at the thickest, and as it goes thinner and thinner. I could come up here and do this, but as I do that through the point, it's going to fold over and bend. It's much easier and much safer to start at the thick end and get yourself established and work to the thin.
So
and
when
then, as you see right here, well, that's the thing. It's like you don't know what part of the split has run out here at the top. So it's a very safer way of working when you get down to the points where cuts and stuff can really, really happen.
Gotcha. So when you're working from the thick eighth of a log, you always start at the top.
Yes.
But when we're at this point where we have something that's just a little too thick, we want to start from the thickest spot, wherever that is.
Yes. Yes. And if you're working stuff down and you're scared about starting at the top because it's gotten so thin and it's so thick at the bottom, it's also easier then to go to the bottom.
Okay.
Ooh. And here is something you don't want to see. So what we have here is a bunch of jumping happening.
Okay.
So if I was to put this back together, you see how I was pulling, and it started here in the center. This got a little thicker, and then right here I tried to pull and adjust it back to being thin, and then it went snap. pulled off a big chunk out of the grain. You
Uh-huh.
see the grain here and here. That's all broken fiber, so we're gonna have to shave that down or pull that off. And then I overcorrected it. I went to correct it again, and then it overcorrected there, and then there. So it's a very interesting tree.
Definitely has a lot to say.
It does.
It definitely is a very talkative tree, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with a very talkative tree. It's actually really good. It just, we might have to modify our approach to what we make out of it. Because if it does not want to pull apart into basket materials, I'm not going to force it, even though I need the basket materials.
Would you set it aside for a different project then?
Possibly. I would set it aside like we did some of these pieces over here for different parts of a project.
Okay.
But I know that at the top of the tree, I know that the first, 14, 18 inches of it is going to be kind of here at the sap, here at the end, at the cambium layer. The closer we get to the bark side of the tree, the iffier this is. So I know that the very center of this tree, of this eighth, once when we take the hardwood, that very center of it will actually pull off into decent splits. And then we have to work with it. But because we have 18 inches or so roughly, we also have all this down here that I was able to pull off a manageable split. So what I'll do is I'll just go on ahead and thin this down, because we don't want to keep splitting it with all those broken fibers right there. Best case scenario is we'll split through the broken fiber sections off and leave the whole fibers. But at this stage, it's really just better to go on ahead, take your knife, have a full split, and shave those broken fibers down. And then here's another one where it's thick here at the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here where those fibers are broken, and very carefully thin the split down like that.
Does thinning it by pulling leave you a stronger splint or versus shaving, or is there no difference?
I don't understand what you mean.
Tensile strength. Is there a difference in the final product pulling off the waste
from doing
versus
this.
shaving? Yes.
Oh, no. No. The final product, the tensile strength of the final product is going to be in making sure we don't have any of those fibers that have jumped. So if we
okay.
had kept going, regardless of how I take those fibers off, whether it's scraping or cutting, as long as we get those fibers and we don't try splitting it again and keep jumping through, this year for the most part is about half of a growth ring or one solid growth ring. And we want it to stay one solid, or part of that one solid growth ring all the way down. We don't want to have another growth ring coming in, because then you have the shear point through the split. And if you
Gotcha.
make a really, you might not know it for the first 100 years, or maybe the first 20 some years of really hard use, but sooner or later you would know it. And I can actually save that for a rib. This material is so precious, we don't want to waste it, even if it gives us a little bit of problems.
You were saying when we were chatting a while back that it's getting harder to access.
Yes. Yes, we have so much, especially in my area, a lot of people have moved in and they don't understand what I'm looking for, so they're thinking that I'm after healthy trees. And I get it. Like, everyone's place is their own to do. And also, because of remember how I showed you the tight grain structure and how close those rings were?
Uh-huh.
This is also one of the results. You get it too close, you get your rings way too close, the wood becomes brittle. And when it does that, it's really no good. But this piece of wood is not, so we know that the last run of growth rings on this tree up near the bark is no good. And we'll just keep that over there for later use.
Okay.
But yes, getting good wood anymore is getting to be a trick. It's getting harder and harder, simply because of people's moving about. The culture of it, the language of basket making is being lost. So people don't understand that I'm after small trees. They think that I'm after healthy trees, or they've got their place and they just want to do with it as they will. And that's fine. That's fine and dandy. So finding good wood anymore is becoming a harder thing. So I'm really grateful when I find those people who are like, hey, we want you to come, we want you to cut, we're happy that you're here, we're happy that you can cut, take what you want. And we usually make them a basket, or we pay them for the wood. We in some way say thank you.
So if you're listening to this from somewhere in Central Virginia, feel free to reach out to our friend here.
And with that being said, though, we do have a lot of places that we are allowed to cut, and we cut all over the state of Virginia. But we take disease and dying trees out. Like that was the thing with this tree. This tree here, you can see it in the growth rings. The growth rings get really, really tight. You might not be able to see it on camera, but the growth rings here are all starting to have all those problems. You see how tight they are?
Mm-hmm.
They're so tight. They're so tight. It's tighter than like rice paper. So when it gets to be that tight, that's the area where we started to have trouble. So when your growth rings are that tight, the wood often becomes brash.
Yeah. Just to narrate that a little bit, because they probably won't be able to see it in the camera, the growth rings he's looking at are a single row of spring wood wide rings, and each spring is touching each other. There's no summer wood in between them.
Yeah. And if this tree keeps giving problems, we'll go bust down another one real quick.
Okay?
All right. And this here is the bamboo, the cane. It's of the cane species, so it's very similar to like river cane. Any of our river canes is another species of bamboo. It's the native species. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this in half. That's the first step. Just like when we split the piece of wood to make our ribs, or we split a log in. And we'll put the bark side of it down. We'll aim it in half. Be very careful. Knock those nodes out. That way you don't slice and dice your hands, because this stuff is sharp. And unlike the white oak, where you don't think about how you grip this stuff you think about how you grip it, because if you grip it like you do the white oak, you end up with a bunch of little cuts on your hand. So now we're down to, we'll split this in half. So bamboo is a very stiff, springy material. So this here is about the ideal size for a weaver on a big basket. So the weaver side of the bamboo, you'll notice, is a little smaller. And now we get to the node, and everyone's like, how do you get the node? Well, this knife here, you can do it with your normal knife and go through it like that. Some cultures, like over in Brazil, Brazilian basket makers, they use a really thin blade for their bamboo. They like that. The Japanese use a heavy blade, and they use the thickness of the blade to go through. And when it doesn't go through, the ferrule is shaped like a wedge, so that you can pop it just like that. And now you can run this down, and you can use this like the fro, and you can adjust by like that. how much pressure you want down, how much pressure you want up. And then this piece here is garbage.
Okay.
And it's garbage because it's the very inside of the tree. It's where all the nuts are at. It's where the diaphragm is at. That's the closest bit. And because you do this, when you give it the bend test, you know, it likes to break and it doesn't pull off. You see how it pulls off at the node. So this piece here rarely makes anything very, very good. So I almost never worry with it. There's so much bamboo out there that this is the stuff that people beg me to come and take by the truckload. So and then you work it down just like that. And now if you're very particular about your split sizes with this, there is a plane. I have a basket maker's plane that we can pass this stuff through so that it's all a consistent, even size.
Nice. So you get 2 splits from the outside, and the whole core is waste.
Yeah, pretty much. And some species of bamboo, I can get 2 more splits. I can get 1 more split out of each one of those. But remember,
Gotcha.
we're making pack baskets, so we're making a heavier work basket, which means that we need beefier materials. And then also, it's winter time. It may not look like it on the camera, but it's winter time here in Virginia. And when we decided to do this, the temperature decided to take a major dive. So it's like freezing right now.
And to all of our northern listeners, it was 11 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, so...
Oh, and as I'm farther down in the state, I know it's colder up north, so don't make fun of me for I know a 30-degree day up north is warm right now. So
This time last year up in Pennsylvania, it was -11.
you know,
Yeah.
you Pennsylvanians, I have to give y'all credit. We went to Fort Loudon in July, and it's 120 degrees. There are some insane temperature swings happening in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing.
Yep.
So, and with these splits here being longer, this here we'll use on the baskets, and they're nice and they're long. That's the other thing that I like about bamboo versus the oak, is that the bamboo, you can cut it to be almost as long as you can. When I cut it in about 8 to 10 foot sections, because the pole itself, if you pay attention, actually tapers. So the farther up it goes, the more it tapers. So I found it out the hard way that in working it, if I include that taper section in the main section where I'm after my splits, it throws a lot of the workability of it off, because then you're going from really, really thin to really, really wide. So then I have to come back down. And working our bamboo stuff that we find here in 8 to 10 foot sections, or even 7 foot sections, tends to be ideal for working. But in all truthfulness, you can also just cut it to fit your car. But a lot of basket makers prefer nice long materials because you have very, very few. You'll have very, very few pieces to tuck back in. So the number of splits that you have to add for your baskets get fewer.
Now, I'm noticing that you're scraping and shaving this one, but
Yes.
didn't the previous 3.
Yes.
Is there a reason?
This one's really thick.
Okay.
And it's too thick for the baskets. This here, you'll notice that as we weave this stuff, even a thin bamboo split in the basket is going to feel like a thick split out of the oak, or maybe a good medium heavy duty split in the oak. So with using mixed materials in your basket, you have to pay attention to. Now, if we were to make it completely out of bamboo, I probably wouldn't have given this much glory. But now that we're going to use them in the oak, they're it's a bit too stiff for the oak. So when you're making baskets out of mixed materials, you have to be aware of the pros and cons of each.
And that's a function of consistency. And,
Yes.
And
Yes. And you learn that the hard
Strength.
way. You don't learn that, you know, you can learn that the easy way by watching the video. or going to the Bodgering Bigfoot on YouTube and checking in with my stuff too.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Please do. Please do.
Please do.
Oh, we're
So-
going to emphasize that in the intro video.
Awesome. Well, I'm just saying, you can learn it easily, but even if somebody sits and tells you, you're still going to want to experiment. Like I tell everyone, here's what works for me. Go find out what works for yourself, and try what I do. And if it doesn't work, you know, it might not be a method for you. Keep experimenting. Keep learning. The material, if you're working at it and you're listening to the material will actually help teach you, and it'll help guide you to make the basket. A lot of times we want to make a basket out of the material, and that material might not want to be made into a basket.
And should somebody trying this for the first time be too judgy on themselves?
No. No. You should come and hang around us where we're all judgy of each other.
Yeah, yesterday for the audience here, when I was starting to make my first ribs, I was sitting like, oh man, it ran out. And she's like, stop judging yourself. You're a noob.
Yep. Now, you can judge me because I've been doing this for so long. But when you're new, oh yeah, you're going to make mistakes. And you're not going to make any mistake that I haven't already made. A lot.
Be brave enough to suck at something new.
Yes.
Yes. That should be the title of the video. Like legit. That should be in the title or the intro.
Yeah. Well.
And what you see that just happened here is that the node section broke off. So you will have, in bamboo, you will have this where some of the nodes are weaker than the others. And it's always, 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 always better to discover the node, have a broken node in the process of making the material or weaving the material, because then you can just restart it. When you're making the material, you can go, oh, that broke off. I'm going to have a shorter split, like right there. And that weak point isn't going to be in your basket at all. So it's better that it breaks and shows the weakness in the material than it is to not show it and it be there. So there is a level of, you can be too careful. Because short materials are just as good as long materials, it just takes more. And then keep using this bamboo down, man. We're going to have a nice little bonfire here later on.
There you go. It does like to pop in a fire, though.
Ah, not this. This is
Nope.
already broken down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true. It
So
just
the reason
pops
why
like
it
a
pops is because all that air is in between the nodes, and then the nodes
True.
don't pop.
Ah, gotcha. We threw some old from our mountain cane patch back up home.
Yeah, that will go pop. You learned that. And back in Luray, where we were living, yeah, we'll throw you in there. Back in Luray, where we were living, we actually would get loads of firewood, start processing it down into our product, and then burn the shavings for warmth. So,
Makes sense.
hey, it works. You see that this knife is so well designed. It comes from a culture of people that have been using and perfecting the art form of basket making, that this knife works so well. I'm not always using the ferrule. I'm really happy that we get to work this down too, because this here, I've been internally screaming over, hoping to get to work it up before it goes bad. That's the problem with these materials, is that in their natural form, before you process them, they can go bad. Like, you're noticing that the bamboo here, there's been a number of times where it's popped off the node. It's slowly drying out, so it's making the materials not quite as good as it was when it was green. But also this tree, these poles of bamboo, came about after the trees, after the forest went to seed. So they've already put their energy to propagate a new forest. And that hurts the material a little bit, but not much.
Would you prefer to use it dead green
Yes.
the day you cut it?
Oh yeah. Oh, it works so good when you use it. So when we go out to other places and we get fresh bamboo, we work it either on the spot by the road, or we bring it in and we work it. And you know, the natural thing with bamboo that you get a lot of are these little splinters. They like to break off. You get used to them. Some days you don't realize it until like 2 days later, where you're like, why do I got this like sore spot on my finger? And you look down and there's a piece of bamboo shoved underneath the skin.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there anything more you want to say about the bamboo for the film?
Great material. You see how nice and easy it works? Our pile of material, our pile of weavers are building up. Very, very quickly with this stuff. And that's one thing that I love about it. It doesn't take a lot of this to make a basket. Just learning how to use it. All right, so now we're back, and we've got our ribs that we made, and the ribs are dried out. Now, when they're fresh, you can take them. They're like our splits. So we'll take one of our splits, we'll bend it, and see how it springs right back. Well, the ribs, now that they're dry, you can bend it up, and it's going to stay put, just like that. But they're not so dry that they're going to break, which is really, really key. So these are the ribs. They're dried out. They're ready to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're going to need about 10 of them. We'll probably go through about 8, maybe 10. I grabbed 10 just to see how big. You know, we got these cut out to a size. We'll see just what they need. And the next step is now going to be laying out the base of the basket. And we're going to do that with these 3 ribs. Alright, so we've got these ribs, and now what you're going to do is you're going to even out all the 3 ribs here at this base. And we'll start off with 3 because that's where my hands, you know, we can get like 4, and you can use your palm, the bottom of your palm, and grip more. That gives you space to put another rib down, but 3 is a good spot to start to get everything interlocked. And I'm going to give it, you know, possibly about a thumb width, or I'm going to give it just a little bit, maybe about an inch or so in between each rib, and that'll give us the space that we need to put these together. And now we're working in a very tight space, so you know we can swing and hit each other. But what I'm going to do, so you want to divide these ribs up in half. All right, so now what we're going to do is we got our 3 ribs laid out, and I lay them out to be about a hand width apart. You can tighten them up. If we're going to make a larger basket, like let's say a shopper basket, we can start off with 3 ribs, or if we're going to put 5 ribs down, you want to keep it about a hand width. And 3 ribs is just plenty to start off with. And what we're going to do is we're going to come under 1, and we want to keep it about halves. So I'm going to eyeball about half of the basket this way, and I'm going to eyeball half the basket this way. And if the ribs get too long and in my way, I can shove it up, but I have to be mindful to come back and bring it back to the halfway point. So we've got our first bit, and now we're going to go the exact opposite. We're going to go under. A good way to think of this and make this not as confusing to everyone watching is you can take a pencil and you can label your ribs, or you can count your ribs. 1, 2, 3. This is rib 1, this is rib 2, this is rib 3. Or 1, 2, 3. So you go under rib 2 the first time, and then you're going to go under ribs 1 and 3, and then it's always alternating. So now we go back under rib 2. And I'm not going to be so picky about
how tight the holes are on my basket at first. Until I get the majority of the ribs in. That's all I'm worried about is getting ribs in.
What's your total count each direction that you're going for here?
Well, right now, you can alternate it, like if you were going to do this with the handle, if this was to be a handled basket, this here would be the center rib. So you would want to put half of the basket that you would want, like if I'm at a shopper basket, I would put one more rib over here, and then I would stop, flip this around, and work it over here. So a shopper basket's bottom is about the width, the length of my table here, from here to here. So, and if I want to, like we're making a pack, so I want to kind of even things out a little bit. And because of tight spaces is why I'm doing this, we can move the ribs over and even it out. But the danger of doing this is that we can scoot it too far over on one side. So then you can pick, so like where you're at, you can pick this up and flip it around. And now I'm going to take, I've got a sufficient pile of ribs in. I'm going to tighten everything up.
So you have 6 ribs in.
Yeah, I've got 6 ribs. Now that we've got this tightened up, we got a true sense of the base. So this is a good size. This is a good size base. So what we want to do, because we're doing this, we're making something that we need, and we're not making a mass produced product. We're making something that we need for ourselves. So every bit of what we have, there's no rules and regulations other than that it's all interlocking. So we're down to the basics. So the width of my basket right here, right now, is not wide enough. Now you can space these ribs out and make it wide enough, but then you open your gaps up really bad, and then your whole basket frame becomes loosey-goosey. So everything about making a basket, you want to be tight regardless of what material you're using. So you want to squeeze these in nice and tight, and they're naturally wanting to stop right there. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to insert. I'm going to put one more rib in, going lengthwise. And now, this basket's going to have a belly. This basket's going to belly out. So I'm not going to really worry so much about how big of a bottom this is. Even this out here and here. Make my basket frame nice and square because that's the way I was taught. And if you have one like this rib right here, you'll see that I'm pressing it in, but it's scooting out. Don't worry about that. Alright. And now what we're going to do is, when everything looks good, it's
I'm
the,
just gonna, I think I'm just going to set this aside. I don't have room to move it
yep.
because I keep hitting that. So we're just gonna watch Nate do his basket and then we'll come back.
Well, I thought that we were going to get a quick shot of this and get this get folded up, pan out, and then we're watching.
Awesome.
We're watching you do yours.
Cool, okay.
Or
We'll do that. We'll do that. We can always take it apart.
all right. or you can hand that one over to Renee and have that set aside, and then we can put hers together.
Okay.
All right. So we are back.
We'll just edit that out.
So edit all that last little bit out, and now start again right here. After that laugh. Good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, now that we've got the frame situated, this rib here, you'll spend forever trying to keep that rib in one place. So let me show you a trick with that. We're going to take, and we're going to fold these ribs up. Look how nice they stay. That's what I like. And as you're folding your ribs up, what you're looking for is you want to keep your ribs right here at the end of this, in line with this rib. You don't want to have this rib coming all the way in, and you don't want to have this rib all the way out. You want nice crisp ends, and you can use like a putty knife, you can use a piece of metal, you can use the tip of the knife like I'm using here, you can use the edge, and we're just going to go all the way around folding this basket. But if you use a razor sharp knife, be careful using the edge for this, because as you fold it up, it could slice through the rib, because when you fold it over, there's a little piece that breaks on the outside, and the greatest strength, the greatest part that has the most strength is going to be on the inside. The inside bend is the part that doesn't break. So if you're folding it up and you hear some creaking and snapping, that's okay. What's not okay is when there's a big snap and you're holding a rib that broke off entirely. Put this guy up. And now this guy, I'm going to hold it. Snap that. There we go. And get your ribs in place. If they move a little bit, it's okay. Just get them in place before you bend them up. That way it's not cockeyed, you bend it, and then as you're weaving your basket up, you straighten it up. That'll make a very interesting weaver. So there's the frame of the basket. And the next thing to do is to take a thick rib, and we're going to split it like this. So turn this around. So here's the rib, and this will offset the pattern. I've got this piece right here, and we're just going to pull that off, just like that. And then we shave a little bit down. That'll give us room to begin weaving. The beautiful part about having a Fairmeister, I can just throw the trash right in there. And that is the frame of the back.
Okay. So don't worry too much about the ones on the edge.
Yep.
And fold them up.
There you go.
That is a horrifying cracking sound. though.
It's terrible, isn't it? After all that work, that making the ribs and doing all that stuff, and now all of a sudden you're hearing a lot of cracking and
But getting that crease is in the same spot, all in a straight line all the way
Yes.
around, is important.
very, very important.
Okay.
If not, it'll be you'll have little humps in the basket. So you won't have a smooth basket. You won't have a smooth wall of the basket. And seeing that we're making pack baskets, if that side so happens to be against your back, you'll have a hot spot in your back.
Oh, that's always fun.
No, it's not.
So now here we want to really get these massaged into even. Right?
Yep, because now this is the last part that you have a chance to fix the baskets.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that everything is really nice and tight the way that you want it. And once when you start folding them up, that's it for that frame.
Okay. Now, is it important which one I use for my split rib?
For this style of basket, no.
Okay. So
But you
we're
might
gonna-
want to take a look, and now that you folded everything together, the part that you split, I typically put it into the back where it won't be seen. So that part's always up against my back. So now look at the bottom of your basket and see where the greatest amount of splay is. The widest part you want to put up against your back.
Yes, I believe that's this side. That side has a couple of bends that were slightly uneven, so we'll put that to the front.
Okay.
Okay. So then for the split rib, it can be any of these?
It can be any of those, but choose a good thick rib.
Good thick rib.
Because you're about to reduce the size of it, which will mean that the split will have a little bit of a problem. So if you choose a really thin one, it'll bend in the split work really bad as you weave it up.
Gotcha.
It'll give you problems.
This is the thickest one, but it's at the corner, is that okay?
I wouldn't do it at the corner.
Don't do it at the corner, okay.
If you're in a pinch and you don't care, go for it.
This is the next thickest one right there, second in.
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it. And am I splitting it once down the middle or twice and pulling out a middle section?
You can split it. You can split a little sliver. You can split it once down the middle and carve a little sliver, or you can split it like that. It's really up to what you feel safe in doing.
Okay.
In fact, some basket makers don't even bother taking a little piece out. They just split the rib and go with it. But that splays the rib out as you put your splits into it.
Gotcha.
And I found that if I've got a really thin rib or a rib that I can't escape, using it as a split rib, there you go.
Okay. Now I do have a question. Are we allowed to use an old hickory knife on oak?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because we do use hickory to weave chair bottoms with.
So it still counts?
So it still counts.
Okay, good.
Okay, so can you not like have them touch each other?
Yeah.
And as long as they're standing up, you're good. You don't have to crunch them until, you don't have to fold them down all the way, as long as they're standing up.
Got it. Okay.
Because you can overstress your materials.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, it's such a horrifying sound.
I know. Should be with me in the classes where we have them make their own ribs, and then they put them together after they've made them like this, and they've never done it before, and oh my goodness, they'll go to there's people that have been literally gone to pieces, freaking out, and they're like, no, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. So kudos to y'all too for being so brave to actually fold up your own ribs and deal with the cracking. And then you can cut sections out of it and just have a flat edge and use that. Or like a putty knife if you got putty knives.
Okay, what's wrong? So this is just not a straight piece. What do you do with that?
You just fold it up.
Just fold it up? even if
Yeah,
it's
there's
not
nothing,
straight?
when they're not perfectly straight, you fold it up. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, so there's our frame.
We've got a starting split, and the starting splits are always a little bit thinner. So we're going to start with our thin splits, and we're going to build it up as we go. And that's to help get the base of this established. So the most important thing to do is we're going to come under, and we want to make sure that the pattern continues to be alternating. So we don't want to continue this pattern where this rib is under this, and then we'll be over, under, over, and then it's just a mess. So we want to start that intentional tightening of the basket by use of it. So, and if it comes up a little bit, don't worry about it. Even if it splays wide out. And as we're weaving around the base of the basket, we're not pulling the split. We're putting a little bit of tension on the split, yes, but we're not pulling it. We're just putting it close to where we want it, just like that. Over, under, over, under. And then you'll notice it's always on my knee. I'm not standing it up on the box, trying to weave it. That'll just that makes for an interesting basket. There's people that do it. It's always better when you're on the knee. And now we're going to come back to that split rib. If we hadn't split this rib, we would be going right back over and following the same pattern. But because of that split rib, we can come in and do that. And now we're pressing down every time we go around. This will help take looseness out of the basket. And now you can start shaping the basket. And there we've ran out of our weaver. And now the whole frame is interconnected. We're going to reach down and get a weaver. Here's one of the maple weavers. And what I did, I went back 1, 2, 3, 4 ribs, and then you can just insert it just like that on top. Make sure it's on the top of this one, and then pull it, push it under, just like that, and you keep on weaving. And the length of time it takes to make the basket is depending on how fine a basket you want. These are work baskets. So our weavers are a little heavier, they're a little wider, and there's nothing wrong with having wide, heavy rims, splits. That gives your basket longevity. And from here, it's just keep getting and going. And you're going to have ribs that cross over. Like this is now the time that we're going to start taking and shaping the basket and setting the basket up for the size that we want it. Because now we're going to pay attention to rib spacing, display of the ribs. They're going to want to come, when they want to come together like this, one of the things to do is that as you weave up, press out on the base of the basket. Now, if these ribs are so nice and thick that pressing out is going to be a problem, but still, try to press it out. And any thin rib, I shouldn't have put this thin rib on the corner, because you see what it's doing, it's coming in. So I'm going to be forever, until I get this basket established, and farther up, I'm going to be forever pulling that rib back out, but that's not a big problem.
Now at this stage, what makes your basket expand out versus come in?
The way you want, well, right now where the basket is setting, we have the basket going out. So I'm just gonna allow it to go with that trajectory. But if you want to adjust that, you can always press it in or you can press it out. And the tensioning of the splits will have a play on that depending upon the materials used. But because these ribs are dry, you can bend it. Just like that. And it'll stay the shape. So I'm going to allow it, so now we're sculpting the basket. We're weaving the basket, we're sculpting it. So now I'm just going to allow it to come out at this nice, because both of these sides are fairly even in the angle that they come out. And that was done from the first course by not being over tight. So the more that they come in, when they come in, you've moved your courses really, really tight.
Okay, so if you had wanted it to come in, like some of those Cherokee baskets we were talking about, you would just make that first course as tight as you possibly could. Okay.
But not super, super, super tight. So you would want to take them and you would want to adjust it so that everything comes in. But now that basket that we had seen, remember they had tapered the ribs too. So there was a lot of care taken into that basket in preparation. So they would have folded they would have trimmed the ribs out, folded them up, and then from the base they would have done the taper, and they would have encouraged the basket with the tightness of their weave to keep going in, but not so tight that it just overshot. So the wonderful thing about having thick ribs is that, and good thick ribs in this, is that you can encourage, you can press them into place and encourage them to be where they want to be, and they'll stay. And then your splits, even if you might be, as you're tensioning them, you can feel the difference. You can feel the split on them. The thinner ribs you have to be careful with, because they'll give in way too easy, and you might have given in too much and not realized it. And now that I've got my split rib here, I'm actually going to encourage this to come in. So I'm going to press that in. As I'm pressing that in, I want this to come out. So I'm going to bring these guys, I'm going to bring the center forward, out a little bit, like that. And you see what that did there? That brought the belly of it out. So now we're starting the belly of the basket. And now, as I go around, I have to be careful not to lose that angle. So you don't want to put it on the box and then really scrunch down. You don't want to do that number because you'll lose that angle. That's why I like weaving off the knee, because my knee, it'll take the shape of my knee. And now we're going to form corners. So as this goes up, I'm going to want this to form a corner to encourage this basket to stay flat in the back.
We get another source of wonderful hot spots.
Yes.
Now you like the starting pieces to be slightly dry, but the splits
Yes.
dead wet.
Yes. And the splits can be somewhat dry too. The moisture content, you definitely want to use them fresh. They're at their best fresh, because the maple might dry out, it might get a bit crackly, but you know, you dip it in water, you can rehydrate it, and it's almost as good as being new, but it's just not the same. But the downside with using fresh materials is that they're going to shrink. So this means that when we get done with this basket, it has to set overnight to dry, and then
like when we get done with the basket, the weaving is going to go all the way up to the top of these ribs, or close to the top. And after it shrinks down, it's going to be down to here. So we're going to lose that much in making a tight basket. And as you weave up, as you weave this basket up, you want to keep in mind of the shape that you're going to go for. So this basket here, I want to have a really nice deep belly, so I'm going to keep encouraging these ribs to come out. And I'm going to splay these out even more, so that opens the gap up a little bit, and it'll encourage this part of the basket to go around. And you can see that the more courses I'm putting on, the more these ribs are staying in place, like they should be.
They're starting to round out instead of being square too.
And now we have a D-shaped basket. So you see the D?
I do see the D.
So, works that way.
We get an A for making a D.
Yes. And my teacher said I would never amount to anything for being a D+ student. We have the bamboo, we have the white oak weavers, and we have the maple weavers. And now, one thing I would say, if you're starting out with oak, I would start off with an oak weaver for a starting split, and then swap over to the maple anytime you want to, because the oak starting split, that's all your oak is going to be on the ground, and oak is fairly rot resistant. And it takes a while even for the sapwood to rot off, especially in this form. It's going to take, y'all will be old people possibly passing these baskets on before any repairs need to be made. These are heirloom, the baskets we make are heirloom baskets. They are meant to last hundreds of years. These are like the baskets we were seeing at the antique store. These are going to be those baskets, guaranteed. But the wonderful thing is that if you work these baskets hard and something happens, you can always repair it, because once when you know how to make it, you can look at it and go, oh, what if I do this, or what if I need to insert new materials to do this and that, and then you had it. You can always fix it.
Now, how would you think about switching, let's say you wanted to switch and have a little bit of the bamboo in there, or a little bit of the willow in there, when you're going to materials of very different width?
I'm glad you asked. Well, that's funny that you say that, because here I have a material that's very similar with. This is out of the bamboo. And we tried to get the bamboo close to being as wide, but now because it's a different width, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was really nice, because this split tapered off. So if it was the same width, if it was the split didn't taper, you would take your knife and you would just cut that down very carefully to fit the width of that split. Just like that. And then you want to pick a wide split, so you don't have to take so much off. You're looking for balance. Again, the theme of this week between us talking about things has been balance. And now, that's seamless. And we keep getting. But we also have to be mindful that as we're working this bamboo can be sharp. So don't grip it the same way as you would grip the other woods. You'll notice as you weave with it, you'll notice that every one of these materials weaves very, very differently. It has a different feel to it, which is cool. Like right there, I just got a little
Nick or a splinter?
No, I just got a splinter.
Splinter.
See?
Yeah. In Southeast Asia, there's actually a way that they cut bamboo at a very particular angle in a very particular direction, then they'll use those as knives for filleting fish.
Yes.
Yes.
Bamboo being sharp is no joke.
No, not at all. And that's why you want to go over and scrape the bamboo and get all the splinters off as much as possible. And the Asian cultures, you'll see where they'll draw them through their knives. And in Japan, they actually round those edges over. So that way they're not sharp. But if you don't get everything, like the oak is going to be a little hairier. But one thing that we've never worried about making, like you'll see the hairs on them, all that comes off in use. So the older these baskets get, the more they get used as they age. These little hairy pieces will fall off.
So now you're just flaring it out more to develop more of a belly?
Yep. Yep, because now you look at it, now you see that it's going from here and it's going to here. So this will give you a spot down here to put stuff into, maybe a few traps or something, spare traps to put down into. And now I want to give it even more space so that it can belly out and come up. So I'm kind of looking for a basket that might come out like this. So that might be the shape that I'm going to go for. And that way you have a lot more capacity in here to do stuff with. All right, so we're back. We've got all three baskets to a very similar point here. Here's the one I've been working on. And we've added white oak, maple, bamboo, back to maple. And we've got these whips here. We've got these willow whips, and I'm wagering that this would look really nice with some red. We've got a lot of different colors in here, but also I love just what each material can represent. So what we're going to do is we're going to tuck this one in here like this. And we're not going to so much worry about feeding it all the way back. We're going to grab two of these. You know, each material has its own significance. And before we put them in, we're going to take it and we're going to spread these. And this prepares the fibers for the bends. So that way they don't break on us. They're happy that they're not freezing now. I'm picking it up and I'm doing this and I'm feeling like a big thank you. I'm hearing a thank you for not doing this while we're frozen. So we're going to tuck that in like that. And we're going to change completely the weave of the basket. When we're doing this style of weaving with this style of basket, it doesn't matter if we have a split rib in it or not, because we're going to twine it now. So to twine it, we're going to come back and I'm going to tuck this guy over back here over this. And then now that we have two, we're going to take this guy and we're going to bring it over one, like that. And now we're going to take the bottom and we're going to take it over two, go behind one, over two, go behind one, and always coming up from the bottom. So this guy on the bottom, over two, behind one. And the reason why we're going to do that, you can go behind every other one like that, but we're not going to stress these ribs up because it's going to take a lot of pressure. These are really nice heavy rods, and you can bend the ribs really, really fast with these, worse than the bamboo. And the cool thing about using the willow whips like this in this part of the basket is that you're actually like a barrel, like a cooper with a barrel. You're putting a band around it of super heavy material, so it adds strength to the basket when there's stuff in and it goes out. Because these are going to dry super, super, super strong. So we're going to weave like this for a little bit. And wherever that is over two, under two, or over two, under one, we're just going to let it be. And now we're coming back. And if it's too thick to go down like that one is, don't worry about it. Reach back into the bag, grab another one, take this bit off right here. So we'll do that. If you got shears, you can just snip it, break it, strike that thing, and come back, tuck this in, and then keep on getting. And this bit that'll stick out, don't worry about it. Take a pair of shears or take a knife and we'll clip that back out. And then now that I've done it with that one, I need to do it with the next one.
So
That
when,
is too thin.
so when you're joining those, if you end at the fat end, you join with the fat end. If you end with the thin end, you join with the thin end?
Continuity, yep.
Okay. And is it better, worse, or doesn't matter to have both end at the same place in the basket versus a stagger?
It's always better to do a stagger.
Okay.
And that's something that if you do chase weaving and everything like that, you don't want it to be, if you chase weaving, for those tuning in, we've been talking a lot about it. Chase weaving is when you don't have this split rib. So we split this rib so that it was alternating, and we could take one split, which we started here, come back around, and it alternates the course, and then we're able to keep building. It spirals up the basket. But continue a chase weave, it would come back around, and you would tuck it in, and you would build it up one course at a time. If that makes sense to everyone watching. And when you're doing joints like that, you always want it, always want it to be staggered, because that gives it strength. And we just keep weaving. And then, like before, here we are again, and you'll see that I've staggered, that they will be staggered. And it naturally wants to do that. So you also hit a point of trust the process. And this band can be as wide as you want it to be. It can be just a single course. This is now going on to course 2. And like I said, this is completely optional, but each one of these materials has taught me something in all realms of my life. So I've got spiritual stuff built up with this, like there's a spiritual connection with this. There's connections with it that, like with the willow. The willow is a really good material for always being reminded to always be supple, always to be flexible, to roll with the punches. And what I love about willow, and we've talked about this, Adam, is that when we moved over here, I didn't know how to work it, and I felt very uprooted and cut off. And because of the supernatural power that this plant has to be able to just be clipped off, like right now we could take that much of it, jab it into the ground, and it'll grow. This plant taught me that no matter what happens in life, or what I'm going through, to always be willing to regrow myself and resprout. Each one of these plants, each one of these basket materials has taught me something about how to live my life and what I believe in. And at that part, I'll be quiet about the rest. So I like to incorporate as much of each one of them for those significant reasons, not for just the strength and the beauty that they provide, but for also what they mean to me. All right, so now the question is, how much more of this do I want to do? This is looking really, really nice. I'm loving that red in there.
That's really pretty.
I would do. And it was all with free material. The only part about it that it costed anything was just going out and putting the effort and collecting it. And I want to match the diameter here, so I don't want this much of it sticking out of the basket. So let's do that.
will get staggered. 2. 2. And now we have a good stopping point on this. This is a very nice band, and you can see that prior, this basket was a little bit flimsy, but now it's super, super strong because of this acting like a band of metal around a Cooper's barrel. So I'm going to stop it right here, and I'm just going to go back to weaving this in, just like we were doing with the other splits. And then I'm going to pick up a split with a sharp taper to it, and I'm going to start it right back here. And then notice that I'm doing this at the back of the basket. So this part of the basket here is going to be up against the back. So by the time we go around the front, it will not, when you got your straps and stuff on, it won't be noticeable. And we'll spiral out. And now we're at the point to where we're coming to the end of the basket. There's only a handful more courses. So there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's about another 8 courses left. So in 8 more courses, this basket will be done. And that puts us back to right where we were. I let go, that's going to go, but there you go. Maybe not. So that puts us right back to weaving back like we was. We're back, and we have Adam's basket here, and we thought this a good point and something awesome to show that we're now ready to finish the weavers. And with the continual weave, if we don't skip 2 and bring it back in, it'll just keep going around and around, and it won't have no strength to it.
Keep going.
You good?
Yeah.
All right, so it won't have no strength to it as we keep going around. So we have to do what I grew up learning and saying was kill the split work. And we're going to skip these 2 ribs, and we're going to bring that into one just like that. Now, you'll notice on this basket that the bottom course right here is the same here. So each rib, where the split comes to the outside, it goes to the outside. Where it goes to the inside, it goes to the inside. The reasoning for that is because these ribs that are on the outside of the basket, the split comes to the outside, the split comes to the outside, and we've done that so that we can fold this in and lock everything nice and tight. These ribs, all of them sticking out on the outside of the basket, will support the basket with weight in them. So as you put rocks or whatever into it, these are the ribs that get taken and get the pressure pressed against them. And they will be locked in. So think of it much like a Cooper in making barrels. These will be locked in when we do our turn down, but that's in a bit. So we want to make sure that the rim is as level as we can get it because it's on a spiral. And the way we do that is we skip over 2, and we make sure to do that right where we start the split because the split spirals up, so it kicks up, which kicks this basket up here too. So right behind here, it kicks up. And we come back around, and when we skip those 2, it levels itself out. So these 2 splits now become one, and the basket should be nice and level and even with the rest of the basket.
Okay.
And here are 3 baskets done in the very same manner, and you'll notice that they're all different. Every basket ever made will reflect something of the person who makes them. This one's mine. This one is Adam's, this one is Renee's. All beautifully done and all as unique as the individual who made them. So I keep getting blown away by how awesome it is. You know, yesterday this was just a pile of sticks. This was a couple of logs of white oak, a couple of poles of bamboo, a pole of maple, and a basket of sticks. And now look at it, it's a functional, everyday usable item. That's not quite done yet because what we need to do now is, well, obviously go to bed, rest, relax. But while we're doing that, these baskets are going to dry overnight, and it'll be ready for the next step, which is the turn down. And the turn down is going to be the process where these get folded over and tucked into the split work, cinching the split work from the top to the bottom together so that it can't come undone. But to do that, and to do that properly and well, they need to dry. And the longer that they can dry, the better. Like in an arid house, in a house like this, that is central heating controlled and everything, and humidifiers running, this won't take long to dry out. Overnight will be good, but if you're living in a log cabin, a tent, or a yurt, or something that's open to the air, you're going to want to leave it be for a couple of days. And you'll know that it's going to be dried out when the weavers get get small and start to have gaps. Like it's happening here already, where I can pull these split work down, and you'll see the splits moving a significant bit. That's from it drying out. Whereas up here where I finished, it's all nice and tight. These down here are drying out. So that drying process is already happening. And after that, we'll check back in. We'll check back in tomorrow when we finish, and we'll show you that process. All right, welcome back. So, we have our basket, and you will notice first thing, especially any critics watching, that this side of the basket is way lower than this side of the basket. That's because I wanted to see how loose the basket had gotten, and I compacted this side more. Let me show you. So the next step is going to be the turn down, and let me show you, now that this is dried, we're going to take and we're going to pull these splits down. And we're just going to turn the basket around, and we're going to pull it down. And you will notice, as we do this, these splits are moving down. The farther I go up, the more they're moving down. So there's a big gap. All right, so you will notice that there's a big gap right through here, all the way around back to where the drop side of the basket is. I've already scrunched this side of the basket down. And that means, and that shows that these splits have dried. Now, if you make one of these, and I hope you do make one of these, I hope you take the time to go out, feel confident enough in what we've done to be inspired to go out and try this. The longer you wait on the baskets, like if you give these things, say 2 or 3 nights inside to dry out, the better the turn down will be, because a lot of the materials, especially oak, will continue to shrink. And there's times where you get yourself a good stout knife blade. You'll see that I've got my Barlow, and I've got my big basket knife right here. I'm going to take the stouter of the blade, slip the blade in on top of the splits through the ribs, and I'm just going to pull. I'm going to use it like a level bar, like a bar, and I'm just going to pull all the split works down. That's what you do when you can't do it by hand. And it also saves your fingertips. If you're making one basket, it's not a problem, but now. And Renee, you see those short ribs I was telling you about? Mm-hmm. Watch this.
Okay.
So, now we can set the basket down. I want the basket to look nice and level and to be nice and level. So I'm going to slide the top down, and that is really, really good. There's the part here where I killed the split. I'll bring this down a little bit. And then now, the most important step of the basket is what we are about to do right now. So I'm sliding my basket again. That's this side here. It's where we came over and killed, so it tends to want to try to be a little higher than the rest, but that's okay. You'll see it in a lot of baskets, but it's not so high, and we can scrunch that down a little bit more. So I'm going to take the knife, I'm going to bend this rib, I'm going to do all the ribs in this fashion. So we're going to take this rib, and you're going to see that I put my middle finger here. I'm going to grab my thumb like that, and I'm going to pull back. That puts tension on it, and very lightly. It does not take a lot of pressure. You score it, and then it'll bend over, give it a little twist, and then boom. There's a tab. Take that tab, I'm going to trim it, trim the end of it off. I'm going to take it, tuck it in like that. Super nice and easy. And to lock this in, I'm going to do all of them. But for right now, I'm going to do the ones on this side, so that way the splits can't have time to loosen up. And this here is okay. When it does that, that's okay, because you can cut that off and have this little piece, and that would still hold the basket. That doesn't hurt it, but I do like to keep as much full width and as much thickness as I can, but not so much so that you can't tuck it. There's a fine balance of how much. And if you keep them full width like this guy here, he'll do that on his own. I don't have to score him. This guy here will do the same. He needs to be scored. He felt like he was going to do the same thing.
What would happen if you accidentally cut one all the way through?
Well, if you cut one all the way through by accident, you would actually have to take one of these guys, insert it in to here, and then do what I call a staple. Fold it over and then tuck it in. And that makes it into, that effectively makes it into a staple. And it might seem cheap, it might seem chintzy, but when you put that rim on, you're going to have a rim here and you're going to have a rim here. And then as we put our lashing through, it's going to cinch down between these two weavers. It's going to cinch down and clamp that down. So it'll effectively act as a single rib.
Okay. So it's not the end of your basket if you make
No.
that error.
No. No. And then remember, this basket is all interlocking from the time that we started. Every one of the materials is relying on the others to help hold it in place. So if you have one that doesn't want to work out, it's not the end of the basket, it's not the end of the world. Because it's going to be all reliant on everything else. It's not just one piece taking all the pressure, it's every one of these. And then we also have these two. We have this side here. So I'm just going to come over here and do the same thing.
I also noticed that you're doing every other and going opposite directions
Mm-hmm.
with the halves.
It's my OCD. It doesn't matter which way you go. It's just what feels the most natural. That part, it does not matter. And truth be told, I should have probably tucked all of these in as I went. But now another big thing as you're watching this, if I haven't explained it, is that when you start your cut, when you bend your rib over, you don't want to be above your split. Because remember, we're trying to make this basket tighter. So you want to come down about halfway on the split itself. You don't want to come all the way down to the next split. You don't want to be above this split, your top split. You want to be about halfway. And what that does is when you fold it over, you will notice as I do this that it's going to pull this whole rib up. See that? It's pulling that rib up. Where I started halfway, it's now level with the top. So it's pulling extra slackness, extra looseness out of the bottom of the basket, which is making it even tighter. So we're going to go all the way around like that. And for other baskets that won't get picked up by the rim a lot, and even in colonial times, the way that I was taught, we just cut these guys. We would cut the ones that were tucking from the inside. We would just cut them off. So this is just an extra precaution against picking up the basket by the rim or the handle and having all the split work years down the road come out. It's not necessary to do all of them. And I'm just going to take these guys and I'm just going to tuck them in.
Got a handy firewood starter here. Some of the best fire starter you're going to have is this stuff. These chips that were taken off on top of from the ribs, they make some of the best forge starters. All right. Boom. Tuck it in. There's that part of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. We're going to tuck all these tabs in. Like so.
And you're tucking all of those in the second split.
Yes. You don't want to go way down here and tuck it in. Because if you go way down here, your rim is going to be here. So you want to put it in just where the rim is going to drop into. So this gives it the maximum strength, maximum clamping pressure. Regardless of how wide or how narrow the splits is, you want to put it down in the next course you can. Because the rim is going to sit right here. This bit's going to get covered in rim and lashed. And that rim is going to clamp it down all the way. So that's clamp, that's clamp, that's clamp, that's clamp. So we're going to have clamps all the way over this thing. And if we have it way down here, or like way down here, it can pop out into the basket as you're picking stuff up. You know, you might have this full of stuff. You might have an animal or something in here trapping. You might have fruit or something in here, and you might pick it up. And over the time, this flexing, this doing what it's going to do, it might let loose and jab into whatever you're pulling out, and then that pulls and rips it up. And then that won't do very well for either what you're putting in here or for the basket itself. So the goal is to not only predict it getting loose and being prepared for it and doing everything we can in our power to make sure that it stays tight for a very long time, but it's also to make sure that it's as tight as we can get it from the get-go. We don't want to have the chance of it ever coming undone or it ever being loose. And if you're in a tribe where everyone is relying, like it would have been back in the old days, everyone's relying, your skill set and what they think of you is based on how well you can make the item. And quite truthfully, I don't want people coming back saying that I didn't make a good item. So we're going to make it as
True
good as we can
facts.
from the get-go.
Okay.
There is the basket all turned down. And now we go to the rim.
So here we are, and we're at now the finishing stage. The basket is turned down, and now we have to make handles and rims. And to help save the time, we went on ahead and we pulled apart wood for the rims in these rough pieces and wood for the handle. And now the handle you can make in a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you the way I use it for my baskets. But we're going to attack the rim first. First thing to do after you split your piece of wood is to measure it off. And the way you measure it off, you grab half of it in the basket. So you can see the end right there. I'm going to put that right here. Then I'm going to wrap this around. And then I'm going to measure off how much of that I want on the scarf joint, because we're going to have to scarf this. So I've got a few inches I can play with.
About how wide and thick is your rim?
The rim is just over 1/4 of an inch, probably 3/8. You can make the rim as heavy as you want to, as heavy as it can be. We see baskets where they use like almost a piece of wood that's almost 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and they put a heavy round radius on it. And that makes it really pronounced. This is this here is thick, but it's not that thick. So I'd say anywhere between 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch. And for the larger the basket is, the heavier the rim, and the more it's going to be worked, the heavier the rim you want it to be. And as far as the width, there is no standard width dimension. The width and the way that I was taught by my family and by their family and their family before them is that you should put this down and it should be 2 courses from the top of the basket. And you'll see it's almost 2 courses. So as long as it's 2 courses wide, and if you make a basket with really big weavers, you can make it 1 course. And some Native American tribes, they just do 1 course. I was taught 2 courses. And 2 courses is going to give it a way to really hold in and cinch together very, very well. So, I'm going to take my knife. I've got my little knife, my Barlow. This is a great little cutter. And I'm doing more detailed work. I'm doing a bit finer work, so that requires a finer blade, but that doesn't mean you can't do it with the old hickory. It's just that I like the way this cuts. I want a little bit more precision. And a little bit more control. Because I am going to round, I'm going to still make a heavy round, and I'm going to radius this. I'm going to come back from the back. I'm going to take all the splinters off. And then now I've got a sharp edge right here, so I'm going to take this, and I'm going to run that sharp edge. I'm going to chamfer it. And if you're doing bamboo, if you're using an all bamboo basket, making a rim out of bamboo, you definitely want to do this and round over the rim. If not, the sharpness of the bamboo will slice through the rim. It'll slice through your lashing splits by that.
And your fingers in a clumsy moment.
Yes. I'm more worried about the lashing splits. So. I mean, you're almost, it's like you're lashing and you're lashing on a knife's edge. A good tug when you tighten it up. As you lash these up, you'll experience it. But it'll just slice right through the splits, and that's just aggravating. So
I believe you.
So this is the scarf joint, and I'm just going to taper this one down to nothing on the inside, like that. You'll see it just come in and it tapers, and that's what it looks like from there. That's what it looks like there. And now I'm going to go on the other side, on the top, and I'm going to come back. I know I have to come back a good ways. And I'm just going to taper this. Down to nothing.
Are you using the same pull cut that we were using when we were making materials?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Same one. Nothing changes. This cut is your standard basket maker's draw. This is the cut that you use all the time. So you go over it, get any knife marks out, and then to make sure that I got it the way that I want it, I'm going to give it one last go around. And I've got a good deal of overlap. So let me show you. This will come around, vamp it, vamp it, vamp it. So there it is. There's the rim. The rim is done. Put that over these. Stay. Stay. What can I say? New baskets. They want to hurry to get done.
Yeah.
So now for the handle. So here's this piece. And
is that the same thickness as the rim?
no, it can be. It can be. This here is probably just under 1/4 of an inch. This here is a hair thinner than the rim. So if the rim is 3/8, this might be a 1/4. If this is a 1/4, it might just be under a 1/4. I don't really go by measurement, I go by feel. And as you make stuff from natural materials like this, you'll get the feel of it. And you won't need a measurement because every tree is different. I can give you a measurement and a thickness and you can send it through the planer, but it ain't gonna be right
with the wrong piece of wood. So it's very much a go-by-feel craft. Now I'm looking for a good hand grip, and I know that it's going to bend, so I don't want it to be so wide necessarily for the way that we're going to put it into the basket. But I don't need it to be narrower either, because then you lose strength, and then it's just not comfortable. So I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to chamfer all the way, make it nice and smooth, clean it up. And now, right here's the part that's going to go down into the basket. So I'm going to taper this like the rim, but I'm going to taper it on both sides so that it's round. Come through here, knock that off. And I'm not going to do it till it's nothing. Right about there. So your handle, you always want, you'll see a taper. So I don't want it to taper down to nothing because you need to fold some of this back. And if you stick with me, you'll see that here in just a minute. And don't rush, as you make yours, don't rush through it. Take your time. It's when you start to bend it. If it breaks, it's gone. So take your time, get it down right, nice and smooth, no splinters. All right, let's show you how to do this. So now, handle placement. Here's our handle. You'll see it's nice and smooth, but as it's drying, little hairs are coming up. You take some sandpaper and sand that off, or as you use it, it'll wear off, but you're not going to get splinters. It's nice and smooth. So we have 1, 2, count with me the ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We split this one, that counts as 6 ribs. So we're going to take these two or these two. We're going to take these two. So we're going to come in here.
Why take those two?
Because they're centered.
Okay.
Though, actually, I'm going to come in one. My concern with going with these two is that it's going to give a massive handle because the handle will be right here, and that's one hand grip. But right here is one fist. So I got 1, 2, 3 on here, and I'm looking at this, and I want it to be even. When you put a handle on the basket, you want it to be even. You want the balance of it to be there. So when you're picking it up, you don't want one side to be heavier than the other. So I'm looking at the balancing on the basket. So here's 1 rib, 2 rib. And if I put this one here to here, 1 rib, 2 rib. So this will be direct center of the basket, so that when you pick it up, you'll be picking up from the center, from the true center. So I'm going to go down to this rib, to this split. I'm going to stick my knife in here, be careful, and I'm going to use the blade of the knife to get under that split and guide this out on top of the split. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this thing to come over here, and the way you do this is completely up to you. This is how this is done is completely up to each and every maker. There's a bunch of set rules and stuff, but for me, there we are. There we go. That'd be a nice handle. You don't want it to be too hard on the hand. Don't be afraid to shape it. So there's no rules as far as how far you can come down on the basket. And from a functioning point of view, all I care about is that I can pick this basket up and carry it anywhere. Some people, like in the shop I grew up in, you would want to take this handle, come all the way down and out, and then hook it down here. But for these baskets and the way that I do it, there's nothing wrong with coming down part of the way. The only thing that you have to do, the one rule that cannot be broken, is what split you anchor it on. So what I mean by that is that we're going to fold this up. This split here is really nice and thick. So you'll see how nice and thick that split is. It's a good thick split, and it's one where we started another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to do what we call a dog ear. I'm going to flex this, and I'm going to very carefully dig in. I'm going to split this thing in half, or preferably a little more than half. You want this part of it to be a little thicker. And then I'm going to take it and put that up here. And then that part there I might just go back and cut off, because I didn't really get anything extra. And then this guy, I'm going to trim it. And I'm going to use the blade, pick it up, but I'm not going to cut it. I'm using the spine of the blade to pick it up. And I'm going to put it in there. Come on. Alright, now. And if you have to, you can use the blade. There you go.
Can you point out where all those were tucked then now?
Hmm?
Can you point out where all those were tucked?
So this guy, we split that in half, and we tucked this guy up and under here, and then we tucked the other part down here. And this is the anchor point. This is what I'm calling the anchor split for this one. So I'm looking at this one as I'm doing this one, and I'm not so sure if I want that one to be the anchor point, but I also don't have a lot of room to come in, and I don't want to have it wrapped around. Actually, I can do that. There's nothing saying I can't. So let's see. I want to find an ideal spot to get it set into. And if we need more room, like we do there, bring it up. Push that handle down, split it up, and make it stay. Because remember, this is going to be picking up whatever you had in it, and you don't want it to come undone. So, and the handle's going to fit in there really nice. The hand will. So we're going to come up here, and I'm going to try to shave off a little bit more than half from the first get-go. That way it's all there. And I want this part to be really thick, because when you pick this up, that's where all the weight's going to be. This part can actually be cut off, but some people cut it off, and I tuck it in. Tucking it in this way gives it anchors going down. And it also keeps it from spreading out into the basket. So I'm going to use the knife blade to press it down. And there it is. Bam. And now, I'm going to trim that off. I'm going to tuck this in. And, sorry for blocking y'all, but I'm using the tip of the knife to pry up. And then I'm going to press in. And then I'm going to use that knife, the tip of that knife, to press it down. And there it is. And now for the test. Oops, sorry. It'd be good. And if it's not good, if it wants to move, like that guy there, I think wants to move a little bit, just go up, anchor it in, and then we'll test it again after it dries, because it's going to stay in place now after it dries. And we should be, oh yeah, we're good. It's not moving. There it is. And now to the lash. Alright, so off camera we prepared a bunch of lashers, what we call lashing splits. They are very, very thin, and I've had them in the bucket of water, rehydrating. Now, natural materials you don't really have to soak. So, here's this. This way you don't have to change it. So, this is the lashing split. This is some of the finest bits of the wood. We want to use the best quality wood and we want to get them as long as the wood will allow us to get them. And you'll see it's nice and thin. And what we're going to do with these is now put the rim on. So I'm going to choose a place to stick this into, and it's going to be right here in the center of this basket. You hear that creaking? That's how tight this basket is.
Is it always in the center right there, or is that
For
just the
the way
good
that-
spot for you here?
That is a good spot for me. That's the way that I was taught. And the reasoning why they told me as I was learning was that you're going to start from here, and you're going to go around, and you're going to come back, and we're going to do what's called a double lash. So that's a lash where we go all the way around, and we're going to go to the outside of the basket. So this is going to go like this, and it's going to go around like that. We're going to go between every rib, every space between every rib. We're going to go. We're not going to skip two. Some cultures skip two, some natives skip two. It's all personal preference. Again, it's what you're taught. It's how you're taught. It's what you like. And I like going between every other one of these big baskets because it will secure this thick, heavy rim. So what we'll do is we'll go this way. We'll go all the way around. This gives us a convenient spot where we can turn back around and end it all here and have no point in the basket where it'll look really obvious that we changed the split direction, and it's in the place where it'll least likely be seen. So I know my rim is under 2 courses, so we're going to go under 2 courses. And come here, buddy. And I'm going to use, and I like to start with the piece with the scarf joint with the round over on the outside. And I'm going to squeeze this, and then I'm just going to start lashing. I'm going to go to the outside of the handle. You'll see the outside of the handle here. That foot needs to cross over to the outside. And then I'm going to tension this. And this is what's going to tell you if you did a good job on your turn down. Because if you didn't, this process will literally take the turn, will literally pull the splits up off of your frame.
How do you remedy that if it happens?
You have to go back and put staples in. Or you have to shorten the basket and return it down. So that means that we would have to come down low enough till we can return that down. That would be the proper way. But then if you're making it by measurement, you've jacked up the measurement. And then here's where it gets fun. Because now the found starting to go around, and you'll see how the basket is way distorted out of shape than what we woven it. So I was telling you off camera, don't worry about the shape of yours, because we're going to have to go back and fix it. Just keep lashing. This is a good test for your turn down. When we get done with this, we will know that no matter what gets thrown at this basket, it will be able to take it.
It will basket.
It will basket. And this basket will haul.
You should say it like Forged and Fired. It will haul.
It will haul. Absolutely. If we're a little loopy, beware, it's getting to be late. And now I'm going to come here. And this will help remedy what I'm experiencing here. And I'm just going to take this in and push it in. And if it does not want to stay in, you can hand me those clips, hand me the binders. Here you go. You can go out and you get yourself some note binders, or note clips, whatever they're called, and boop, handy rim clamp.
I use those for so many things.
Yep. Well, putting your rim on tight is essential. So this is what's holding the whole basket together. And at some point, because we did the spiral weave, as I'm coming up on it, we have to be aware that at some point we went over 2. We skipped 2 ribs. So all of a sudden, now that we're going back around this way, 2 courses will become 3 courses. And you'll see it right here. So if I keep, or 2 courses will become 1 course. So if I keep going this way, here's where we skip to. And if I keep going under, as I've been going under, I go under 1 course. So I don't want to keep doing that. So I'm going to drop down a course, but I'm going to finish this split because I've gotten to the end. So what that means is that I'm going to take it, pull it up nice and tight, and then I'm going to tuck it into my split work. So now we're to the end of our split, and the split unfortunately did not go all the way around. That's okay. That happens a lot in this craft. So what we're going to do is we're going now to tuck in the split work. We're going to tuck this in, so I'm going to trim that off, and I need it to go in there. I'm going to take my knife, without stabbing myself in the leg, I'm going to open up the split. And if I was to do it like this, it would work better. There you go, Nathan. That's how you do it, son. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to press it right on in. And you hear that bit of squeaking. I'm going to fold it in, and then I'm going to take it, do that, and there it is tucked in. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to grab another lashing split, and I'm going to make sure the point is facing out, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to jam it in there. And then, if you need to, take the tip of the knife, put enough pressure to catch on the split, and press it all the way down. Now,
Is that in the same spot as the previous tuck?
Yep, yep. And I'm going to show you the way I was taught to do this, because tucking it in like this signifies that we have a very tight woven basket. But now, when some baskets don't want to feel tight, or the rim will loosen up, maybe the rim is so heavy that it pulls the lashing out and this never stays put, let me show you how to anchor this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife, place it back into the split work again, go down a little bit, and I'm going to take the knife, reverse it, tuck it up underneath that split right there, and I'm going to do that. And that's going to give me a tail to come up through the split work. And then I'm going to fold it like that, if you can see it.
Yeah, spin it out a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, there's the light. So I'm going to take that tail, I'm going to tuck it back into the split work. And then, he says for showing anchor. You know. Alright. So if it does that, that means you need more. And that damaged that part of it, so clip that off, give it a fresh cut. And then let that set, and now we are anchored. And again, any moving that it does, it's going to be widescreen and still super flexible, so it can pull out of there if you pulled it so hard. And like I'm tugging on this split, I want to make sure it's going to be anchored. So I'm being, as my wife would say, over dramatic. And I like to put the lashing split, you'll see I love to put the lashing split over the top of every rib. Not beside, I like to put it directly on. And there's the clamp. You no longer need the clamp. And I'm going to stay under my 2 courses. And now we got the scarf joint right here. And that scarf joint's going to come in. So we do this. And then that cinches it down. like that. And now that is one. And I thought I had gone way too far for my scarf joint, but you can see right there's the end of my scarf joint, and right there's the end. So that is really, really good. And it's going to want to pop out. So we're going to tighten it up and clamp it. Use your hand as a clamp and pinch where this is. So each stitch that you do, you'll have been able to see through the whole video that this hand or this hand never stops holding the lashing split. So now that I'm going back, I'm putting the lashing split directly on top to form the X. So there's an X. So I'm putting it exactly where I want it to be.
And all you did there was reverse the direction that you're wrapping.
Yep, I went around, came back, came through the handle, and then just sat it to come back. And now we've met up with the center. So now when I come back, I'll be able to come back this way, go through here, tuck it in, and you'll never know I reverse back to here. It helps hide that jarring junction. And now we come to where we just tucked it. We just ended this one and tucked it in. You can't just jab it through. And in tight spots of the basket, you take your knife and you jab it through. But this we can't do because we'll cut the lashing split if we do that. So what we have to do is come up through the top. So we're going underneath. All right, so now we're back to where we had finished the last lashing split and joined the new lashing split. So we can't take the knife. So one way in through tight situations is to take the knife and open it up. But we can't do that here because we'll cut through the lashing split and this will come unraveled. And we can't put it directly through there because that's the bottom of the lashing split being tucked in. You'll see it right there through the split work. So we have enough room where we can come in like this, but you can see that while it looked like it was enough, it's not quite. We have to angle the split just enough to get up over this one or to push this one off to the side enough. And you'll see how naturally it goes up over, like we're starting a new split when we're weaving. And bam. You'll see that every place a new lashing split is started. And now it's just a simple matter of keeping on and stitching. And this part's the easy part. This is the last part of making the basket. Besides filling in the holes. If you want to fill in the holes of the basket, that's another thing. And right here's another way you can do it. You come to the front of the basket and put it in. Or if you have a long enough one, you can finish it off like that, but it will be seen. This one here, I don't like, when I do that, I don't like how it comes up and how it comes straight in. It messes with the whole vibe that we have going. So I'm going to take this guy. Trim it. And then I'm going to take him, clamp it here, and I'm going to hold. You always put, when you're pressing the split in, you always put your finger here and hold the split work. You always want to keep this tight, and you always want to keep it clamped. If your hands won't allow you to do it, get yourself one of these, clamp it in. Make sure it's large enough to do that though. And then as you're clamping it, you press, you use the heel, you use the bottom of your thumb, the heel of your thumb, and you roll that split into place, just like that. So Adam is going to take 3 of these splits to do one basket. So we should have enough splits whether they're not made up. And if we don't, I've got some more lashing splits in there.
It's really a pretty conservative use of materials.
It is. And each material, like each part of the basket, this is a good thing to throw in too, because each part of the basket is a different part of the log. So if you're using predominantly white oak, you use the ribs, you use the wood for the ribs, we use the upper part of the tree. It works good, but it's not as good for splits. So we use those for the structural ribs. And then we use the best of it for our lashing splits. We set that aside for the lashing splits, and the rest of it we made into weavers for the basket. And then we used those weavers to weave up the basket. And then the worst of it we used for the handles and the rim. These were the pieces that would have been chucked. These are the pieces that you cannot get rims. These are the pieces that you cannot get splits out of. They're the worst of the worst, but there's still a function for them, and that's for the rim. They come in really good for the hoops, for the hoop rims. So we use that for that. So we don't want to waste any part of the material. And now we just keep going around. And I use the second course to cinch the basket even tighter. And that creaking, you will hear that creaking in these rims. That is a good sign, not a bad sign. You're not breaking anything. That's what you want to hear. Oh, we're going to be so close. No.
That would be so sad if you're one stitch away.
I am literally one stitch away. And that happens. That happens. See how that loosened up? Did you see that? Mm-hmm. I went to tuck it in and it pushed it back out, and that would loosen. And this is a good time to point into, if you don't keep your split work clamped as you move in about, this will loosen up like this, and then this guy can loosen up, and then this guy can loosen up, and then you have a whole mess. After struggling to get that rim nice and tight, you have a whole mess there getting loose. So you want to mitigate that as much as possible. And at this point, I would say there's no point tucking another split in here just to go over one and to tuck it back, other than for the sake of, I want the continuity of it. So I'm just going to let this be where it is. This is going to be a nice pack, and now we need to address the shape of it. It went back to being circular, so we need to grab this thing and we need to wrestle with it however we can. Till we get our shape.
Nice.
And now there is one completed pack basket.
It will basket.
It will basket. So this is the way I was taught. This is the way that I grew up doing it. And now that it's done, it's time for the final bits. We've gone through the hard work. We've busted the materials out of the log. We found the logs. We dragged them out of the forest. We busted everything down. And now we've got a basket before us, woven up, and it's time for the final trimming. And while I'm at it, you don't have to do the double stitch. You can do a single stitch. That is something that is absolutely fine. You'll find it among a lot of Cherokee work, among a lot of indigenous works. What I like about the double lash, you'll also find the double lash. It just depends how you was taught to do this and your viewpoints on it. So I would experiment and try it both ways. Maybe you'll come to a conclusion about what you like better. Maybe you like the double lash, maybe you like the single. That's a maker's preference. But what I like about the double lash is you have two layers of weavers. You have one layer going this way, one layer going the opposite way, and they're both cinching down on the basket. So that's two layers of weavers acting. So you have two cords essentially being strong versus just one cord string. So if you go with one lash, if something happens, maybe you're out in the bush, maybe you accidentally, put your knife down wrong, or these baskets are great to stick knives in like that. Maybe you accidentally do that and sever through a lashing split. Maybe you never do anything like that, and this basket gets old and it gets moved someplace, or maybe it gets squashed, rim gets pushed out, one of these will break. We see that a lot. But that will help hold the second layer, keep the second layer, which is your first layer, from breaking, if that makes sense. So it also gives another layer of protection, and it also gives just, I prefer this way. This is my way. But I have done plenty of single lashes too.
What
There's
about
nothing wrong with it.
an inner rim, having two rims,
That is
inside versus
absolutely
outside?
fine.
How would that work?
A lot of your older baskets, especially baskets in black ash, a lot of your indigenous baskets will have two rims. I've seen them with one rim. I was taught the one rim method, but there is nothing to stop you from putting two rims in if you want to go through the work and put two rims in. What I don't like about it on this basket is you see how pronounced this is. So now that means that would go on the inside of the basket too, so you have a lip on the inside of the basket. So that's something to think about in the design of your basket as you're doing it. If you want that inner lip, if it'll help keep stuff into the back basket, great. But maybe you got a bunch of stuff you're trying to pull out. Maybe you got like cords or something, sticks, or I don't know. Maybe you got something tucked up in here and it gets up underneath the rim. It might become a bear. It gives a catch point for something to catch up as every time you're pulling it out. So I like to keep the basket fairly smooth on the inside. And the shape of the basket as well, we shape the basket so that, let me flip it over this way. So I'm going to take this, you'll see it tapers down and it comes back up. So it's got a wide bulge up through here. And it's flat on the back and it's got the belly right through here. The belly puts all the weight. So you would put all of your stuff, all of the small stuff down in the base, down in through here. And as you built it up, you can put your heavier stuff up here. And when you put it on your back, if I hold it up on my torso, all the weight is high up on my back. So like right through here is where I would throw all my traps in. If I was out trapping, I would throw them up here and all the stuff down here. And then that goes into the rim on the inside. Maybe I got a super heavy rim on the inside like this, and I'm trying to pull those traps out and trying to be fast or smooth about it. And that's all the time catching. I want something smooth, but this belly, as it comes around, you'll notice it comes in. And as it comes in, it helps cradle everything in. So if you're on the forest and something drops, that drops. You see the angle of the basket? So it's going to set like that, and everything's still going to be, because this curves up, everything's still going to be down inside here. You won't lose as much. That's one fun fact about indigenous basket work versus European basket work. European baskets come out like this and then go straight up. Native American baskets come out and in. They always taper in for that same reason, so that they can hold, if you're on the forest floor and you're on uneven surfaces, it can hold whatever you're putting into it without losing the majority of it. Because God forbid you're in need of food and you filled your basket up full of food, maybe you found a bunch of morels, and you've walked all over the place and you've worked hard to find the morels. You don't want to accidentally fall or put them down and get knocked over and then just lose everything and then have to scramble around and pick them back up. So that helps mitigate that, because then we go back to a survival situation where if that happens, you're burning calories. So that's something to think about if you're in a survival situation and you're thriving and you're making a basket. The more you have to scrounge around and pick up after an accident, well, the more calories you're burning. And that's the reason why, explained to me by a 90-some-year-old Cherokee basket maker.
So there you go. We have baskets. Again, we hope that you do this. Right? We're putting these videos out. We're sharing this information because we want these skills to survive.
It's
so
ancestral.
Do it, yeah.
It's very ancestral knowledge. And now that we're at this part of it, what I didn't say in the introduction, as part of my family thing, I'm one of the last members of my family, if not the last member of a culture here in Appalachia, the Shenandoah Valley, making these and making them full time. There's really no one else in the communities that I see really taking this up for a living. So this is ancestral knowledge being lost. And we're using so many different materials. As you've seen, we've used maple, we've used white oak, we've used willow, we've used so many different basketball materials, and that knowledge is slowly creeping away and dying off, and it's rather sad.
It is. And I'd also like to encourage you to go out into your area and play with the woods around you. Pick the woods that are better, steam bending woods have a better chance of being a basket wood. Is
Yeah.
that fair?
That's fairly fair.
Fairly fair, but you still don't know until you try.
Yeah, you don't know until
Yeah.
you try.
So try it. Pick a tree and say, will it basket, right? And tinker with it.
And then
explore your area and your culture.
Yes, and do research. Go out. You can Google basket makers in your area. You can Google or you can research into the indigenous tribes that made baskets and what their baskets were like in your area. And then you can see their materials. And then you'll have a better idea of knowing what might basket around you.
So we hope that you'll experiment with your own things in your own area, and make sure you check out Nate's YouTube channel too, because he's got a lot of good basketry stuff there as well. So go on over and give him a like and subscribe and a little love that way. And we'll see you here next time. And in the meantime, make a basket.